Chapter 1823. Hiss. They're all from the Flaming Yellow Chamber of Commerce, and each of them donated more than 10,000 strings of cash. TSK. Together, that's more than 100,000 strings of cash, right? They're too generous, aren't they? That's more than 10,000 strings of cash. What's so strange about that? The Flaming Yellow Chamber of Commerce monopolizes the trade of bicycles, new carriages, celestial tea, footballs, and other exotic items in the Great Tang. The members of the Flaming Yellow Chamber of Commerce earn huge profits every year. Naturally, it's not something small shops like ours can compare to. TSK. I wonder how I can become a member of the Flaming Yellow Chamber of Commerce. This world was like a pyramid. Those who stood at the top of the pyramid were always in the minority. The merchants who came to the fundraiser today were the same. Wealthy people like Lin Wenyuan and Chao Wendong were in the minority after all. Most of them belonged to the category of those who had little family wealth. After the grand opening of the fundraiser, everyone couldn't help but exclaim in private. Wang Peng of the Treasure House donates 30,000 strings of cash. At this moment, when the name Lin Wenyuan read out was finally not from the Flaming Yellow Chamber of Commerce, his next sentence caused another huge uproar. Wow! 30,000 strings of cash. Did I hear wrongly? Oh my God! It's finally not from the Flaming Yellow Chamber of Commerce, but this person actually donated 30,000 strings of cash, the same amount as Marquis. Where did this Wang Peng of the Treasure House come from? He's actually willing to donate so much money? The merchants sitting in the hall on the first floor of the inn were in an uproar. What did they hear? Someone actually donated 30,000 strings of cash, an amount comparable to Li Zixuan. More importantly, this person was not from the Flaming Yellow Chamber of Commerce? Where did this Wang Peng of the Treasure House come from? For a moment, this question surfaced in everyone's mind. But after regaining their senses, many people immediately reacted. After all, most of the people present were merchants from Chang, a city or nearby Chang'an. If I remember correctly, this treasure house belongs to the eldest son of the Wang family of Taiyuan, Wang Renbiao. Wang Renbiao? Isn't Wang Renbiao also from the Flaming Yellow Chamber of Commerce? After all this time, he's still from the Flaming Yellow Chamber of Commerce. Wang family of Taiyuan? Did that mean that the Wang family of Taiyuan was also participating in this fundraising event? TSK. With the Wang family's financial resources, they can really take out 30,000 strings of cash. No. This treasure house is the private property of the Wang family's eldest young master. It doesn't belong to the Wang family of Taiyuan. Then why didn't young master Wang donate in his own name, but in the name of the treasure house's shopkeeper? Yes. If I could donate that much money, I would definitely donate it in my own name. Soon, someone revealed the background of the treasure house. Wang Renbiao, the owner behind the scenes, also surfaced. However, many people were somewhat puzzled. Why did Wang Renbiao give this opportunity to make a name for himself to his own shopkeeper instead of himself? However, there was no lack of smart people present. An old man explained to his companion in a low voice. The eldest young master of the Wang family is now the provincial governor of Qizhou and represents the Qizhou officialdom. This donation drive is mainly for us merchants. It will be inconvenient for the eldest young master of the Wang family to donate money in his own name. Therefore, he can only participate in the name of his shop's shopkeeper. His words were reasonable and instantly received the agreement of many people. Now, looking at the whole Tang dynasty, it was extremely rare to see someone like Li Zixuan, who was a high official in the imperial court and openly engaged in the business of merchants among the people. Most people in the officialdom would only let their family members or subordinates engage in the business of merchants behind the scenes and would not put it out in the open. The following facts proved that it was indeed as the old man had guessed. Li Jingqiu of the Li Family Carriage Company of Yong County in Qizhou donates 2,000 strings of cash. While the crowd was discussing in low voices, Lin Wenyuan did not stop and immediately read out the next name. The reason why he was so anxious was because the client of these two donations was the same person. In the middle back row, a fat middle-aged man in luxurious clothes stood up and walked forward with 2 cards in his hands. Then, the old man showed the cards in his hands to the crowd. One of them had 30,000 strings of cash written on it and was signed by Zhu Baozhai, while the other had 2,000 strings of cash written on it and was signed by Li Jingqiu of the Li Family Carriage Company. After showing the cards, the old man put the cards in his hands into the cardboard box. Then, under the guidance of the venue's staff, he went up to the second floor of the inn to pay the corresponding donation amount. This old man was actually the client of both donations. Seeing this, the people below could not help but discuss again. What is the relationship between the Li Family Carriage Company and Zhu Baozhai? No, it should be the relationship between the eldest son of the Wang family and this Li Jingqiu. Why did they let Wang Ping donate their money? Li Jingqiu? From the name, it sounds like a girl. TSK, 2,000 strings of cash. This girl is really generous. I think I have heard of this Li Jingqiu. A few days ago, I sent the shopkeeper to Qizhou to deliver a batch of goods. At that time, I heard that the governor of Qizhou, Wang Renbiao, would be marrying a commoner girl in a few days. That girl is called Li Jingqiu. Huh? So the two of them are husband and wife. Then why are they donating separately? They can just be combined. Who knows? For a moment, the crowd started to gossip about Wang Renbiao and Li Jingqiu in private. Very soon, the truth of the matter was more or less restored. After all, they were businessmen. In this world, they were the ones with the most up-to-date information. At that moment, Lin Wenyuan threw out another bombshell. Li Cheng, the shopkeeper of the Ingenious Craftsman Pavilion, donates 30,000 strings of cash. Whoosh! This time, Xiao Yu, who was sitting in the first row on the left, could not help but narrow his eyes, and he looked slightly shocked. At that moment, not only were the people in the hall shocked, but even the onlookers outside the Longmen Inn were also in an uproar. 30,000 strings of cash, another 30,000 strings of cash. What's the background of this Ingenious Craftsman Pavilion? However, this time, the background of the Ingenious Craftsman Pavilion was dug out very quickly. The Ingenious Craftsman Pavilion? The Ingenious Craftsman Pavilion in Chang'an West City? Isn't that the shop of that person in the palace? That person in the palace? Who is it? It's His Highness the Crown Prince. What? His Highness the Crown Prince? How is that possible? Shoo! Lower your voice. I heard that His Highness the Crown Prince is also a member of the Flaming Yellow Chamber of Commerce. If that's the case, it's not surprising that he donated. What? His Highness the Crown Prince is also a member of the Flaming Yellow Chamber of Commerce. How much money did the Flaming Yellow Chamber of Commerce donate? Let me count this. It's actually 190,000 strings of cash. The crowd discussed fervently. With Wang Renbiao as an example, everyone understood very well why Li Chengqian did not use his own name but someone else's. As they discussed, a pale, beardless old man walked up with a card in his hand. It was the shopkeeper of the Ingenious Craftsman Pavilion, Li Cheng. At this point, the first batch of members of the Flaming Yellow Chamber of Commerce had all donated. The donation amount was 190,000 strings of cash. Everyone who thought of this was shocked. Even Xiao Yu was no exception. He had expected the people from the Yan Huang Chamber of Commerce to be rich and would be the main force of this donation drive. However, he never expected the people from the Yan Huang Chamber of Commerce to be so generous. The donation drive had only started for less than 15 minutes, and they had already donated 190,000 strings of cash. To be precise, it was 190,000 strings of cash, including Li Jingchu's 2,000 strings of cash. A few days ago, he had made a bet with Li Er that the donation drive would not be able to raise enough money for the military. However, in such a short period of time, he had already raised 190,000 strings of cash. He was only 58,000 strings of cash away from the small goal of 250,000 strings of cash that he and Li Er had set. There were a total of 600 to 700 people attending the donation drive today. The remaining people donated an average of 100 strings of cash each, which was enough to reach the small goal of 250,000 strings of cash. The power of merchants. For the first time, Xiao Yu realized that when merchants united, they could also exert a force that could not be ignored. The donation drive continued. Lin Wenyuan's voice was still echoing in the hall. Qing Ji Wineries, Qing Ruisong donates 5,000 strings of cash. Qingji Clothing Shops Yu Guangxian donates 5,000 strings of cash. Qingfeng Grain Shops in Shixiang donates 5,000 strings of cash. Hengli Satin Shops Su Hongyu donates 5,000 strings of cash. Baochang Pawn Shops Lu Yuchuan donates 4,000 strings of cash. Yifeng Ironware Shops Zhangsun Chao donates 4,000 strings of cash. As Lin Wenyuan's voice rose and fell, the people sitting in the hall and outside the Dragon Gate Inn were not idle either. Everyone was amazed by the tycoons of the donors while secretly guessing the background of the shop. Although some of the shops had mediocre backgrounds, some of the shops had deep backgrounds. Most of the people present were merchants near the capital, so they were naturally well informed about Chang'an. Soon they had dug up the backgrounds of some of the shops. Isn't this Duke Lu's winery? He also sent people to donate money? Hey, isn't this Duke Yi's shop? This shop belongs to Duke Yi's family. There's actually a shop belonging to Duke Zhao's family. Everyone was shocked to discover that not only did Wang Renbiao and Li Chengqian from the imperial court send people to participate in this donation drive, but other civil and military officials like Qing Yaojin, Qin Qiong, Yuqi Jingde, Zhang Sun Wuji, and others also sent people to participate in this donation drive, and all of them donated a considerable amount. Sitting on the left side of the row, Xiao Yu finally could not remain calm. His eyes widened and his face was filled with disbelief. If Wang Reni and Li Chengqian were to participate in the donation drive because they were members of the Flaming Yellow Chamber of Commerce, it was still reasonable. However, Qing Yaojin, Qin Qiong, Yuqi Jingde, Zhang Sun Wuji, and other civil and military officials also came. That was completely out of his expectations. Crazy. Crazy. This was clearly a donation drive that was open to the merchants of the Great Tang. Why did all the civil and military officials of the imperial court come? That's not right. Qing Yaojin, Qin Qiong, Zhang Sun Wuji, and the others all donated money. If I don't donate, then wouldn't? Suddenly, Xiao Yu's hand that was stroking his beard trembled violently, and he almost pulled his beard out. This was because he suddenly realized a problem. He had been scammed. Chapter 1824. Taiyuan City, the Wang clan's ancestral home. Master, there's someone outside who says he wants to see you. In a courtyard near the northwest of the Wang clan, a manservant walked into a side hall and reported to Wang Yu. Who wants to see me? Wang Yu was in the middle of resolving family matters. Speaking of which, since his second son had requested to be adopted by the second branch, as his father, he naturally had to ask Wang Reni's birth mother, Madame Cui, about this. His intuition told him that Wang Reni's adoption was not as simple as it seemed, and Madame Cui had returned to the ancestral home several months ago. In theory, she should know some secret. But before he could ask a few questions, the manservant said that someone was looking for him. He couldn't help but be surprised. He had only returned to Taiyuan a few hours ago, so why was someone already looking for him? The manservant held an item in his hand and bowed to Wang Yu. Master, that person did not say. He only asked this lowly one to present this item to Master. He said that once Master sees this item, you will definitely see him. Let this old man see. Wang Yu raised his brows and ordered the manservant. Yes, Master. The manservant naturally accepted the order and stepped forward to hand the item in his hand to Wang Yu. Wang Yu stretched out his hand to receive it. The manservant handed over a token wrapped in brocade. Wang Yu lifted the brocade and focused his eyes to see that it was actually a token. After clearly seeing the words engraved on the token, his eyes trembled, and then he quickly wrapped the token up again. He then instructed the manservant, "Take a look at the token. Hurry and invite him in." "Yes, Master." The manservant obeyed and left. Wang Yu turned to Princess Tang and Wang Ren's birth mother, Cui Qinfang. After a few moments of thought, he said, "Madam, Qinfang, return to the rear courtyard and rest. This old man has some matters to take care of." Princess Tang had wanted to ask Wang Yu what had happened, but when she heard this, she stood up and looked at Wang Yu, then at Cui Qinfang, who was sitting across from him. Without saying anything, she turned and left. Cui Qinfang bowed and said, "Yes, Master. This concubine will take her leave." After bowing, Cui Qinfang followed Princess Tang out the door. Although Wang Ren had been adopted by the second branch and had completely become a member of the second branch, as his mother, as long as Wang Yu did not divorce her, she would always be a member of the eldest branch and had to live under the roof of the eldest branch. After the two women left, Wang Yu was the only one left in the room. Not long after, the manservant from before came in with a young man in tight clothes. Wang Yu waved his hand at the manservant and ordered, "You can leave first. Close the door while you're at it. Without my orders, don't let anyone come close to this place." The manservant's expression turned cold as he bowed to receive the order and said, "Yes, Master." The manservant left and closed the door. Only then did the young man cup his fists and bow to Wang Yu. "This General Dugu Feiying greets Provincial Governor Wang." That's right, the young man who came to see Wang Yu was Dugu Feiying. The fish talisman he had the manservant pass in was the Imperial Army's general. This could directly prove his identity. It was because of this that Wang Yu dismissed the others in the room. The Imperial Army would not leave the capital so easily. Now that an Imperial Army soldier had come to Taiyuan and had not revealed his identity to the manservant and only passed the fish talisman to Wang Yu, it meant that he did not want others to know his identity. At the same time, it also meant that this Imperial Army soldier did not want others to know the purpose of his visit. "Haha. So it's a brat from the Dugu family. Have a seat." Hearing this, Wang Yu laughed and threw the fish talisman in his hand to Dugu Feiying. He pointed to the chair beside him and said, "The Dugu family was a noble family from the North Zhou to the Sui Dynasty. The founding empress of the Sui Dynasty and Li Yuan's first wife were all from the Dugu family. Although the Dugu family was not as powerful as the 5 families and 7 nobles, they were not far behind. Therefore, after hearing Dugu Feiying's identity, Wang Yu's attitude became very polite. However, Dugu Feiying did not sit down as he was told. He cupped his fists and said in a deep voice, "Thank you, Provincial Governor Wang. However, this general still has military affairs to attend to. I came here today to ask Provincial Governor Wang for a favor. After I'm done, this general will leave." Seeing that Dugu Feiying's tone was hurried, Wang Yu did not have the intention to continue the small talk. Instead, he went straight to the point and asked, "General Dugu, please tell me what you need. If I can help, I will do my best to help." Hearing this, Dugu Feiying was overjoyed. He quickly said, "To be honest, this general came to Taiyuan with my brother mainly to protect the safety of His Royal Highness Prince Wei and the people from Yanhuang College. This general brought people to Taiyuan yesterday. My brother, Prince Wei, and the others will only arrive at Taiyuan at dusk today." After this general arrived at Taiyuan City, he discovered a group of extremely suspicious people who were suspected to be Turkic spies hiding in Taiyuan. This general was worried that this person would harm Prince Wei and the others, so I sent people to monitor him, who knew that he would disappear right under the noses of this general's subordinates. Dugu Feiying made a long story short. He told Wang Yu about what he had encountered after arriving at Taiyuan City, as well as the two key suspects, Zhu Hongxing and Kong Chang'an. Hearing this, Wang Yu frowned. After thinking for a while, he opened his mouth and asked, "You said that His Royal Highness Prince Wei and the people from Yanhuang College are coming to Taiyuan? I wonder if you can tell me their purpose in coming to Taiyuan?" It wasn't that he wanted to pry for information, but he didn't understand. Even if Zhu Hongxing and Kong Chang'an were Turkic spies in Taiyuan City, why would they harm Li Tai and the others? If he wanted to help Dugu Feiying solve this problem, he had to understand the cause and effect of this matter. Hearing Wang Yu ask this question, Dugu Feiying couldn't help but look troubled. Seeing this, Wang Yu waved his hand and laughed. "Ha! Since it's not convenient to say, then forget it. Don't violate military discipline because of this old man." Seeing that there was no one else in the room, Dugu Feiying hesitated for a moment, then said, "There's no harm in telling you. His Royal Highness Prince Wei and the others have come to Taiyuan to complete a top-secret mission from Yanhuang College, which is to build a telegraph relay station in Taiyuan City. It will be used to quickly transmit information between the frontline soldiers and the imperial court when they attack the Turks in 2 months. His Majesty is worried that the Turks will send people to obstruct or harm His Royal Highness after learning of His Royal Highness's purpose, so he sent me and my brother to lead 1,000 Imperial Army soldiers to escort him. When we were in Shiha County in Fun Province, my brother suspected that we were being followed, so he sent me to Taiyuan City first to clean up the hidden dangers in the city. Unexpectedly, the suspects escaped. The Wang clan has operated in Taiyuan for many years. If Provincial Governor Wang is willing to help, it won't be difficult to find those 2 people in Taiyuan City in a short time. As the head of the Wang clan and the Provincial Governor of Sui Province, Wang Yu couldn't be unaware of the pros and cons of this matter. Moreover, Wang Yu had a close relationship with the imperial family and Li Zishuan. He couldn't possibly reveal this secret and put Li Tai and the others in danger. It was precisely because of these prerequisites that Dugu Feiying told Wang Yu the true purpose of Li Tai's trip. He believed that Wang Yu would definitely keep this secret. Yanhuang College? A telegraph relay station. Hearing this, Wang Yu's expression suddenly became serious. He said in a deep voice, "General Dugu, rest assured. This old man will do his best to help this matter that concerns Prince Wei's safety and Yanhuang College's mission." Just as Dugu Feiying thought, Wang Yu was the emperor's son-in-law. His son and Li Zishuan were close friends. He was now firmly tied to the imperial court's war chariot. When it came to the safety of Li Zishuan's son and Li Zishuan's students, he couldn't just stand by and watch. At this point, Wang Yu muttered to himself for a moment before continuing, "This old man hasn't been in Taiyuan for a long time. The affairs of the clan are handled by second elder. You just said that you suspect that the Chuji Ironware Shop and Zhu Hongxing are accomplices, and the Chuji Ironware Shop's daily iron ore needs come from the Wang clan. This old man will immediately send people to the clan to investigate this clue. In addition, this old man will use all the resources of the Wang clan to find Zhu Hongxing and Kong Chang'an in Taiyuan City as soon as possible." Wang Yu's words meant that in the next few hours, all of the Wang clan's overt and covert spies, guards, servants, shopkeepers, and servants in Taiyuan City would be involved in the search for Zhu Hongxing and Kong Chang'an. Dugu Feiying secretly let out a sigh of relief. He cupped his fists and said to Wang Yu, "Many thanks, Provincial Governor Wang. Since that's the case, this general will take his leave first." With the help of the Wang clan, who had been entrenched in Taiyuan City for many years, He believed that Zhu Hongxing and Kong Chang'an wouldn't be able to hide for long. Then, he would be able to free up his hands to investigate if there were any other hidden dangers in the city. Good. General Dugu, please go. This old man will arrange for people to help you. Wang Yu got up and sent him off. Dugu Feiying nodded and turned to leave. Wang Yu looked at Dugu Feiying's departing back and sighed, his expression grim. A moment later, he also left the room with his hands behind his back and walked toward the courtyard of the second branch. But neither he nor Dugu Feiying noticed that on the roof, there was an ordinary-looking man in gray robes. At this moment, he had also quietly left the courtyard. Chapter 1825. Young Master, that's all. In the side courtyard of the Wang family's second branch, a thin man in gray robes greeted Wang Reni. Oh no, he should be called Wang Xinyuan now. The thin man whispered something into Wang Xinyuan's ear. In the end, he took a step back and cupped his fist. Wang Xinyuan's eyes flashed, and a playful smile appeared on his lips. After a moment, he said with a smile, "You did a good job. As for grandfather, I will ask for a reward for you after this matter is done." "Thank you, young master. But this is what I should do." The gray-robed thin man's face remained unmoved as he said indifferently. Wang Xianyuan didn't take it to heart. Instead, he asked with a smile, "You are Wang Li, right?" The thin man in gray's eyes flashed slightly and said, "You have a good memory, young master." He was a subordinate of the Wang family's second elder and belonged to the Wang family's shadow guard. Although the Wang family's shadow guard was a force that the Wang family had secretly nurtured for many years and directly took orders from the patriarch, the 5 branches of the Wang family all had their own forces within the shadow guard, and this Wang Li was the commander of one of the Wang family's shadow guard squads. His original name was Guoli, and after his parents died when he was young, he was taken in by Wang Kuei and entered the Wang family. He first became a guard of the Wang family, and then, under Wang Kuei's arrangements, he entered the Wang family's shadow guard. Many years later, he actually became one of the 5 leaders of the Wang family's shadow guard, and was even bestowed the surname of the main family, becoming the current Wang Li. In terms of loyalty, Wang Li was naturally loyal to the Wang family, to Wang Yu, the head of the family, and to Wang Kuei. However, for him, loyalty to Wang Kuei took precedence over the other 2. Wang Xinyuan asked meaningfully, "Haha, I know a little about the realm of martial artists like you. I wonder what realm you are in now?" Wang Li didn't understand why Wang Xinyuan asked this, but he still replied, "Fortunately, I was nurtured by second elder. I reached the peak of Qi transformation 3 years ago, but I didn't make any obvious progress in these 3 years. Now I am only half a step into the Guru realm." Half a step into the Guru realm. Wang Xinyuan's eyes flashed and he couldn't help but murmur, "That's still far from Li Zixuan." Although his voice was soft, it was still heard by Wang Li. After all, those who practiced martial arts had sharper ears than ordinary people. The corner of the latter's mouth twitched involuntarily. It was rumored that Li Zixuan had stepped into the supreme power realm at the age of 20 last year. Such an amazing martial arts genius was rarely seen in hundreds of years. How could he compare with him? Speaking of which, if he had Li Zixuan's talent, there would be countless sect leaders fighting to recruit him. Why would he settle for being a lowly guard in the Wang clan? The atmosphere stagnated for a moment before Wang Xian continued, "I know that you are loyal to grandfather, but since grandfather sent you here, did he tell you that you have to listen to my commands during this period of time? Second elder has already instructed this subordinate to be at young master's disposal for this month." Wang Li cupped his fists and said. In fact, he really looked down on Wang Xinyuan, who betrayed his father for glory, and took the initiative to be adopted by the second branch. However, due to Wang Kuei's orders, he didn't show his disdain on his face. Wang Xinyuan smiled, and then his face suddenly became serious. He said in a deep voice, I don't only want you to obey me on the surface, but I also want you to obey me in your heart. Listen, as long as you follow me and work hard, I will not only help you become the commander of the Wang clan's secret guards in the future, but I will also ask an expert to help you break through to the supreme power realm. How could someone as smart as him not see that Wang Li was only obeying him on the surface and was not convinced in his heart? It was because of this that he said these words to Wang Li. He had just arrived at the second branch and had no one to rely on. Although Wang Kuei was so good to him now, the two of them were mostly using each other. When Wang Kuei successfully took control of the family, where would he go and where would he go? Therefore, it was necessary for him to cultivate some forces for himself before that. Wang Li was moved, but the waves in his heart were quickly calmed down. He said lightly, "Thank you for your kindness, young master." He didn't accept or refuse. His attitude was ambiguous and ambiguous. "Ha! It's up to you whether you believe me or not. My words are always effective. However, the most important thing now is that you must help me with this matter in front of you." Wang Xinyuan knew that the other party didn't believe him, but at the moment he was really poor. As the saying goes, haste makes waste. Fortunately, he didn't continue to force him, but said lightly, "It's all up to young master." Wang Li cupped his fists and said. His attitude was no longer as frivolous as before. Wang Xinyuan nodded secretly and said, "Continue to monitor the family head. Report to me immediately if there is any new situation. However, you must be careful to hide and not be discovered." Chapter 1826. Provincial Governor, the Wang family's shadow guards are out in full force. All the peddlers and servants in the city have also heard the news. Sorspeak City is in chaos. Sorspeak City, back hall of the Bing Province Provincial Governor's residence. An old man in scholarly robes cupped his hands at a dignified middle-aged man in official robes. This middle-aged man was the provincial governor of Bing Province, Wang Liaoyuan. When Li Zixuan intercepted Wu Jie at Longmen Pass, he had borrowed troops from him. The Wang family's shadow guards are out in full force? Hearing this, Wang Liaoyuan frowned and couldn't help but ask, what exactly happened that made all the hidden guards of the Wang clan come out and cause such a commotion? Although Wang Liaoyuan was a collateral descendant of the Wang family of Taiyuan, he was now the provincial governor of Bing Province, which meant that he represented the imperial court. The sudden appearance of the Wang family's shadow guards and such a big commotion put him in a difficult position. The scholar cupped his hands and said, "This old man doesn't know. I only heard that the Wang family is searching for two people in the city. One is a Turkic merchant called Zhu Hongxing who just arrived in Sorspeak 2 days ago. The other is the owner of the Chuji ironware shop, Kong Chang'an." Wang Liaoyuan was even more confused. He muttered, "A Turkic merchant and the owner of an ironware shop. Why is the Wang family looking for them?" After a moment of silence, Wang Liaoyuan stood up and said, "Have someone prepare a carriage. This official is going to the Wang family ancestral residence." He had heard that Wang Yu had just returned to Sorspeak and wanted to meet him. At this time, a soldier came in and cupped his hands at Wang Liaoyuan. "Provincial Governor, the Wang family head has sent someone to deliver a letter. He says that it must be opened by you. Bring it here." Wang Liaoyuan's expression shifted as he hurriedly ordered the soldier. "Here." The soldier came forward and handed the letter to Wang Liaoyuan with both hands. Wang Liaoyuan took the letter and saw that it was sealed with wax. His expression turned solemn. He did not immediately open the letter. Wang Liaoyuan said to the soldier, "You can leave first." "Yes." The soldier received the order and left. Only then did Wang Liaoyuan open the letter. There were only a few words in the letter, but Wang Liaoyuan's expression suddenly became more solemn. The scholar at the side couldn't help but ask curiously, "Provincial Governor, what did the Wang clan's head say in the letter?" Wang Liaoyuan immediately put away the letter and said with his hands behind his back, "The Wang family's hidden guards have been mobilized under the orders of the imperial court. Tell the guards to not act recklessly and not to obstruct them. Do what you should do as usual." The imperial court's order. The old scholar was startled when he heard this. When he came to his senses, he quickly cupped his hands and said, "Understood." With that, he turned around and left. Wang Yu had expected that the provincial governor's office would definitely receive news of the Wang clan's actions and take action. That was why he wrote a letter to Wang Liaoyuan. However, in this letter, he did not explain too much, nor did he ask Wang Liaoyuan to mobilize the bailiffs of the provincial government to help him search. This was because this matter concerned the safety of Li Tai and the others, as well as the Turkic spy. The fewer people who knew, the better. Dugu Feiying had told him to keep this a secret. In addition, the Wang clan's ability to find people in Taiyuan City was far superior to the provincial governor's office. There was no need for the guards of the provincial capital to get involved in this matter. Although Wang Yu's letter was abnormally simple, Wang Liaoyuan could tell from the few words that there was something unusual about this matter. As for what exactly was unusual, he could not guess. This Taiyuan city will probably be in chaos soon. Wang Liaoyuan stood with his hands behind his back and sighed. Chapter 1827. Yuzhou was located to the northeast of Chang'an. Together with Ji, Yun, and Feng provinces, they formed a firm military barrier on the northern border of the Great Tang. 70 li north of Yuzhou, one would enter the territory of the Turks. Another 30 li north would bring one to the Tuli Khan's Yatan. For a Khagan of the steppe to set up his tent on the border of the Great Tang seemed extremely illogical, but there was a reason behind it. The Tuli Khagan was a member of the Ashina clan named Shparga, and he was the son of Shibi Khagan. In the second year of Wuda, Shibi Khagan died of illness. Shparga was too young to succeed the throne, so his uncle, Silafoshi, succeeded him and was given the title of Chuluo Khagan. After Chuluo Khagan succeeded the throne, he appointed Shparga as Nibu Khagan and placed him in the eastern part of the Turks. The land bordered the northern part of Yuzhou. In this way, if the Great Tang attacked the Turks in the future, Shparga's subordinates would be the first to bear the brunt of the attack and be able to hold off the Chuluo Khagan for a while. If the Turks attacked the Great Tang, Shparga's subordinates would be the vanguard and charge into the enemy lines for Chuluo Khagan. If Shibi Khagan knew in the netherworld that his brother treated his son like this, would he be so angry that he would flip open his coffin lid? But this was not the end. In the 4th year of Wuda, Chuluo Khagan died, and Shparga's other uncle took over the throne, becoming the current Shieli Khagan. After Shieli Khagan took the throne, in order to win over the old subordinates of Shibi Khagan, he appointed Shparga as Little Khagan and put him in charge of the chitons and swans. However, the location of Tuli's tent did not change. It was still connected to Yuzhou in the south, located in the eastern part of the Turk. It was a special military barrier between Li and Shieli. At this moment, a caravan was traveling on the steppe, and they were heading in the direction of Tuli Khagan's tent. There were 20-some people in this caravan. The leader of the caravan was slightly plump and wore a round collar made of green silk. A belt was tied around his waist, and his long hair was not tied up. Instead, it was tied into small braids that casually draped over his shoulders. This was the typical attire of the Turks. The 20-some people behind the merchant were all dressed in coarse leather clothes, their hair braided style, with scimitars at their waists. All of them appeared Turks. Obviously, these people were the merchant's escorts. In addition to the people, there were more than 10 carriages accompanying the caravan. They were the kind of carriages that were used to transport goods, not people. Through the door of the carriage, one could see that the interior of the carriage was filled with a dazzling array of goods. There were silk, porcelain, and even daily utensils in the boiler. The caravan traveled on the prairie at a leisurely pace. Suddenly, A group of soldiers wearing leather clothes and armor and holding curved sabers galloped towards them. "Stop right there!" When the group of soldiers arrived in front of the caravan, they immediately reined in their horses and stopped. The leading soldier's face darkened as he asked loudly, "Who are you people?" As for the language spoken by the soldiers, it was naturally not Han, but Turkic. Ever since Tumun defeated the Ruran in 552 AD and established the Turkic Khaganate, the Turks had continued to expand for 200-some years until the Uyghurs defeated the white-browed Khagan in 745 AD. At their peak, they had occupied the Mongolian Plateau, the Yongar Basin, and the Central Asian steppe. As a powerful nomadic people active in the northern steppe of China, the Turks had an important influence on the history of China, Central Asia, and the rest of the world. In addition, the Turks were also the first nomadic people in China to possess their own writing system and language. Several hundred years ago, the Xiongnu and Ruran did not have their own language or writing system. They only used Chinese characters. "We're from the Pugu tribe. On the orders of our tribal chief, we've just brought back a batch of great Tang specialties from Taiyuan to offer to the Great Khan." In the face of these soldiers, the merchant remained unperturbed. After sizing up these tensome soldiers, he placed his right hand on his left chest, bowed, and then began to speak in fluent Turkic. What was strange was that this was clearly the territory of the Tuli Khagan, but this merchant was clearly standing on the side of Sheli Khagan. It was truly perplexing. Was he not afraid that these soldiers would kill or capture all of them and bring them to the Tuli camp? However, after hearing the merchant's reply, those soldiers didn't have any strange expressions on their faces, nor did they make any extreme movements. A hint of fear even flashed through the eyes of the leading soldier, but it was quickly concealed. He looked inside the carriage and said, "Servant Bone Division? What did you bring to the Great Tang? We want to inspect it." The merchant chuckled and said, "The things in the carriage are just some silk, porcelain, and iron. If you like them, you can each take a few with you. Just treat it as a gift from our Pugu tribe." "But which tribe do you belong to?" Switching from defense to offense, who would have thought that this merchant would actually start to take the initiative? Hearing the merchant say that everyone could choose a few items to take away, a hint of greed flashed across the eyes of the dozen or so soldiers. After all, the items mentioned by the merchant might be common in Great Tang, but on the plains, all of them were in high demand. There was a flash of greed in the eyes of the leader as well, but it quickly returned to normal. He held his head high and puffed out his chest. "We are from the Qian tribe, and are here to guard this place under the orders of the Great Khan. Since you are offering these things to the Great Khan, we naturally won't take more. One per person is enough." The Qian tribe, one of the 15 tribes of Tiela, was the closest tribe to the Tuli Khagan's Yashin that belonged to the Sheli Khagan's forces. It seemed that the merchant's decision to say that he was from the Pugu tribe was the correct one. Because the Pugu tribe was near the Turkic royal court, it was the direct subordinate force of Sheli Khagan. The merchant smiled and said, "So you are the warriors of the Qian tribe. Since you are under the orders of the Great Khan, please inspect these goods carefully." After saying that, he made a "please" gesture. Seeing the merchant being so magnanimous and being so polite, the leading soldier waved his hand at the people behind him and said, "All right. Since you are friends from the Pugu tribe, brothers, each of you can take a piece of ironware." After saying that, everyone cheered and hurriedly got down from their horses and walked towards the carriage loaded with goods. After a while, some of these people carried iron pots and some carried iron stove. To the nomads living in the grassland, these ironwares from the central plains were very scarce. This was because the people of the grassland were not good at refining iron, let alone making ironwares. Take the iron pot for example. A good iron pot could easily be exchanged for dozens of sheep in the grassland. Some tribes that were not doing well could not afford to use iron pots, so they could only use stone pots. "All right. Brothers of the Pugu tribe, you can go now. My name is Chien He. You are very similar to my temperament, haha. There are still 3 checkpoints in front, but when the time comes, as long as you mention my name, they will not make things difficult for you. But you must not go near the little Khan's yashin, otherwise you will be caught. The leader of the soldiers held a jet-black iron pot and grinned at the merchant. From the beginning to the end, these people only took one piece of ironware that they wanted and did not check the goods in the carriage one by one. The merchant smiled and bowed. Thank you, Brother Chien He. The soldier by the name of Chiida, he waved his hand and left with his subordinates in satisfaction. The merchant stood still for a while. When he saw that the soldiers had gone far, he then said to the guards behind him, "Let's go. We must reach Tuli Yashin before dark." Mandarin. At this moment, this merchant was actually speaking in Mandarin. Yes. The 20 guards behind the merchant cupped their fists and said in unison. What was even more bizarre was that these people were all speaking in Mandarin. It turned out that they were actually a group of Central Plains people who came to the grassland in disguise. But that merchant was from the Central Plains, so why was he able to speak Turkic so fluently? The group once again set out on their journey. Just as Chien He had said, they encountered 3 more checkpoints in the following journey. But the name Chien He seemed to have some effect on these Turkic soldiers. Those Turkic soldiers who had originally come to search did not make things difficult for this merchant group. But the merchant was rich and imposing. Although they did not make things difficult for him, he still left behind some ironware or silk for the soldiers at each checkpoint. These soldiers were all beaming with joy and declared that if they went to the Great Tang to buy goods again, they would definitely not stop them. Good. We should be safe from now on. After passing through the last checkpoint, the leading merchant finally let out a sigh of relief and said, "Heh, Duke Ju, you are truly formidable. Those Turkic soldiers were all fooled by you. At the start, this general was sweating for you." Hearing these words, the guards behind the merchant all let out a sigh of relief. Among them, the leading guard could not help but look at the merchant with a face of worship and sigh. Duke Ju. This merchant dressed as a Turkic was actually the Duke Ju, Tang Jian, who had secretly departed from Chang and 10 some days ago on a diplomatic mission to the Turks. Who could have imagined that the mighty Duke Ju of the Great Tang would disguise himself as a Turkic merchant and even speak fluent Turkic? At this moment, the other guards also looked at Tang Jian with admiration. This man had single-handedly led them through Xieli's checkpoints, making it difficult for them not to admire him. Tang Jian stood with his hands behind his back and faintly smiled. When we go on a diplomatic mission to the Turks, we are already dancing on the edge of the blade. In the future, we will definitely encounter many more dangerous situations than today. If we want to return alive, we must be extremely careful, and at the same time, we must also prepare ourselves mentally. At this moment, Tang Jian's hair and beard were blowing in the wind. He was just like Zhou, calm and composed, confident and at ease. This sort of mentality was simply explosive. Yes. Everyone agreed. The leading guard hesitated for a moment, then said, Duke Ju, this general has a matter that I do not understand. Earlier, why did you tell that Chikaha that we were from the Bogu tribe? This territory belongs to Tuli Kagan. When you said this, were you not afraid that Chikaha was one of Tuli's men and would kill us all? He knew a little of the Turkic language, but he was far less proficient than Tang Jian. Just now, he had also understood a portion of the conversation between Tang Jian and Chikaha. It was precisely because of this that he was sweating for Tang Jian. Chapter 1828. Haha. In the past, the entire southeast region of the grassland was naturally Tuli's territory. But now, Xieli Khan is amassing a large number of troops to encircle and suppress Tuli. Tuli has sent people to the Great Tang several times to ask for help, so Xieli must be on guard against him escaping from the grassland and seeking refuge with the Great Tang. Therefore, Xieli must have sent troops to guard the borders of the grassland to prevent Tuli from escaping. Since Xieli sent troops to guard against Tuli's escape, he must have sent tribes closer to Tuli's house. Thus, this old man said that we came from the Pugu tribe, and the Pugu tribe is located in the heart of the grassland, far away from here. Even if the guards here find us unfamiliar, they probably won't find it strange, so they didn't make things too difficult for us. On the grassland, Tang Jian, who had passed through many checkpoints, was leading the group forward quickly while explaining to the guard beside him. The people accompanying Tang Jian to the grassland were all elites of the Imperial Army, and the guard beside him was a lieutenant general of the Imperial Army named Yu Minghu. During the Wuda years, he had followed Li Er to fight the Turks many times, so he knew a thing or two about the Turk language. However, compared to Tang Jian, the little bit of Turk knowledge in Yu Minghu's mind was completely lacking. During the Wuda years, Tang Jian had interacted with some Turk nobles and generals many times. Not only was he familiar with the Turk language and writing, he also knew the Turk tribal divisions and power relationships like the back of his hand. Therefore, after Li Er ascended the throne, whenever he sent an envoy to the Turks, Tang Jian would be among them. So that's how it is. After hearing Tang Jian's explanation, Yu Minghu couldn't help but be enlightened. He cupped his fists toward Tang Jian and said in admiration, "Duke Ju is far-sighted and insightful. This Yu admires you." This was sincere admiration. Although Tang Jian did not know martial arts and seemed to be in existence of fighting 5 dregs, on this grassland, his brain and the knowledge in his stomach were completely comparable to a mighty soldier who had experienced hundreds of battles. Tang Jian waved his hand, not taking this matter to heart. He said indifferently, "If this old man remembers correctly, we should be able to see Tuli's house after walking a few more li to the north." After saying that, he added, "If it's not necessary, try to speak as little as possible to avoid being overheard and exposing our identities." Yu Minghu had long been convinced by Tang Jian, so how could he not agree? He hurriedly cupped his fists and said, "Yes." The group of people rode their horses and pulled their goods towards the north. The afternoon sun shone on their bodies, causing the sweat on their faces to increase. Although the heat was unbearable, they were more confident that they could return alive. South of Taiyuan City, in the Yi Temple, under the incense burner table. At this time, there were also 2 people here who felt the unbearable heat. Not only was it unbearable, but it was also unbearable hunger, thirst. This hunger and thirst was real hunger and thirst, especially for the fat middle-aged man. He was about to faint at this moment. He was not only suffering from the heat, but also hunger and thirst. Phew! He couldn't take it anymore. He couldn't take it anymore. "Boss Kong, I need to go out for some fresh air and find something to eat and drink. Otherwise, I'll starve to death." Zhu Xiecheng moved his body and turned his head to speak to Kong Chang'an. As he spoke, he used his fat palm to fan his cheek. Obviously, he was unbearably hot. He was just short of sticking out his tongue like a puppy in summer. Speaking of which, if sticking out one's tongue could cool down one's body, this guy definitely wouldn't mind sticking out his tongue. "Are you crazy?" Kong Chang'an couldn't help but scold him angrily. "The Wang family's people are looking for us all over the city now. Aren't you walking right into their trap if you go out now? If you want to die, don't drag me down with you." Although he was also unbearably hot now, compared to being caught by the Wang family, this stuffy heat was still within his tolerable range. Then what should we do? Are we going to hide here for the rest of our lives? Let alone for the rest of our lives, even if it's just for 2 days, we'll suffocate and starve to death here. I'll go out and see if there are any Wang family guards outside. They can't be nearby all the time, right? Zhu Xiecheng said impatiently. Chapter 1829. Reporting to Patriarch, Zhu Hongxing's attendants, as well as the manservant and shopkeeper of the Chu ironware shop, have all been captured by us. However, Zhu Hongxing and Kong Chang'an's whereabouts are unknown. Their attendants and subordinates are all stubborn and unwilling to divulge their whereabouts. Oh right. And that Zhu Hongxing is a fake name. His real name is Zhu Shiqing. Taiyuan, the Wang family's ancestral home. A tall man in black with a round collar cupped his fist and reported to Wang Yu. Other than the two of them, Princess Tang and Wang Bing were also in the room. The pursuit of Zhu Shiqing and Kong Chang'an involved a secret mission of Yanhuang College, as well as the safety of Li Tai, the Tang Empire's prince. Therefore, Wang Bing had only used his authority as the master of the family to help Dugu Feiying catch the spies. As for the details, he hadn't told anyone else in the family. It wasn't that he didn't trust them, but that he didn't dare to, because the slightest mistake could doom the Wang family. Even so, Wang Yu had still told Princess Tang and Wang Bing about the inside story. Firstly, these two were his closest relatives and were absolutely trustworthy. Secondly, these two were experienced and quick-witted people. After knowing the inside story, wouldn't they be able to help Wang Yu come up with a solution? Zhu Shiqing? I remember that there's a Turkic tribe called the Shadua tribe, and most of the tribesmen have the surname Zhu. Combined with today's situation, there's really something going on behind these two people. Wang Yu's expression turned cold. He snorted and said, "Since those servants refuse to speak, Chenggu, immediately hand them over to Dugu Feiying of Tongfu Inn. They're the Imperial Army, and they have plenty of ways to make those servants talk. After you go, report the current situation to Dugu Feiying. Tell him that the Wang family will do their best to pursue Zhu Shiqing and Kong Chang'an until they're found." Wang Chenggu. This tall man was called Wang Chenggu, and he was the commander of the Wang family's shadow guards. He was a grandmaster who had been trained by Wang Yu. Hearing this, Wang Chenggu saluted respectfully and said, "Yes, master." Then, he turned and left. The room fell into a brief silence. With the revelation of Zhu Xiecheng's identity, and the fact that Zhu Xiecheng and Kong Chang and subordinates refused to reveal their whereabouts, this undoubtedly confirmed that these two people's backgrounds were not clean. "Master, do you think we caught the wrong person? Zhu Xiecheng and Kong Chang'an are just merchants. Maybe they aren't the Turkic spies the Imperial Army is looking for?" Unexpectedly, Princess Tang suddenly spoke at this moment. When Wang Yu heard this, he frowned and said without thinking, "Madam, how is that possible? If the two of them were not Turkic spies, why did they conceal their identities and hide now? If this was not a guilty conscience, what else could it be? This old man suspects that these two are not only Turkic spies, but Turkic spies that have been hiding in Taiyuan City for many years. Otherwise, how could my Wang clan not have found their whereabouts even after mobilizing all its forces? This group of people must have accomplices in the city." Even though Wang Yu's words were reasonable, Princess Tang still shook her head and said, "Master, they concealed their identities and hid here and there. Perhaps they did something illegal in their daily lives, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they are Turkic spies. Moreover, Master, don't you think that they were exposed too easily? If they were Turkic spies, how could the Imperial Army, which has only been in Taiyuan City for a day, have caught them?" Wang Yu couldn't help but be taken aback by Princess Tang's words. This was a contradictory topic. According to his previous analysis, Zhu Xiecheng and Kong Chang were Turkic spies who had been hiding in Taiyuan City for many years and had many accomplices. But if this was the case, how could they have been discovered as soon as Dugu Feiying and the Imperial Army arrived in Taiyuan City? Then weren't these two Turkic spies too weak? Wang Bing was an experienced and knowledgeable man, and he had seen all sorts of monsters in his life. Seeing Wang Yu's conflicted expression, he said, The princess's words are not without reason. In this old man's view, whether it was Zhu Xiecheng or Kong Chang'an, they were exposed too easily. It's like someone behind the scenes deliberately pushed them out to draw the attention of the Imperial Army and the Wang clan. If this is true, then the faction hiding in Taiyuan City cannot be underestimated. King Wei's party will probably be in trouble on this trip to Taiyuan. But regardless, Zhu Xieqing and Kong Chang are the only clues we have. If we find them as quickly as possible, we might be able to find a clue to the person behind the scenes. Chapter 1830. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye. In the blink of an eye, the cold light outside the field was only 3 feet away from Zhu Huiqing. At this moment, no one had time to react. Some people didn't even notice the cold light in the air. First, it was because the speed of the cold light was too fast. Second, it all happened too suddenly. The figure outside the window appeared without any warning. At the same time, the cold light also appeared. The cold light pierced through the paper window and went straight for Zhu Huiqing's throat, silencing. Someone actually dared to kill someone right under the nose of the Imperial Army. Bastard! Dugu Feiying was the first to react. Seeing this, he was both shocked and angry. At this time, he didn't have time to call for help. Even if he did, it would be useless. No one present could be faster than him. Dugu Feiying, who had just reacted, stretched his right hand towards his calf like lightning. In an instant, a mystic leaf flying knife appeared in his hand. In the next moment, the flying knife shot towards the trajectory of the cold light. He wanted to use the flying knife to stop the cold light in the air. He was only a few steps away from Zhu Huiqing. However, he didn't know where the cold light came from. He didn't dare to use his body to block it. He could only use the flying knife that he was best at in his life to block it. At the same time, he finally had the time to shout to the Imperial Army inside and outside the house, "Assassin!" At the same time, Dugu Feiying's flying knife met the cold light in the air. The expected sound of metal clashing did not appear. The cold light seemed to have pierced through the body of the flying knife and continued to fly towards Zhu Huiqing's body. At this time, at this distance, even if Dugu Feiying wanted to use his body to help Zhu Huiqing block it, it was already too late. The cold light that should have shot into Zhu Huiqing's neck instead shot into Zhu Huiqing's shoulder blade above his chest. It seemed that although Dugu Feiying's flying dagger didn't succeed in stopping the cold light, it had slightly changed the direction of the cold light's flight. At this time, Dugu Feiying finally saw what the cold light was. It was a thin needle that emitted a cold light. Seeing that half of the needle had already sunk into Zhu Huiqing's shoulder blade, Dugu Feiying secretly let out a sigh of relief. It was fine as long as the needle didn't pierce his throat. Catch the assassin! At this time, Dugu Feiying was both shocked and angry. He roared and turned his head to look out the window, but at this time, there was no one outside. It turned out that the moment the assassin made his move, he didn't look at the result and immediately fled. At this time, if Dugu Feiying wanted to capture him, where would he start? Regardless of whether he succeeded or not, he would immediately flee. Was this assassin a professional or not? Or perhaps, the opponent was confident that he could kill the target with this move. Quick! Catch the assassin! Motherf *Ker, how are the people outside guarding? At this time, the rest of the people finally reacted. Zhang Dafu roared and led the people directly out of the house, cursing and swearing. There was a commotion outside the house, followed by a series of hurried footsteps that gradually went further and further away. Back in the house, Zhu Huiqing's shoulder blade was hit for a while, but he didn't cry out in pain. He only groaned. Dugu Feiying felt a little strange, but then he saw Zhu Huiqing's neck quickly turn black. There's poison on the needle. Almost instantly, Dugu Feiying reacted. He quickly squatted down, grabbed Zhu Huiqing's shoulder, and shook it, saying, "How are you? The person you want to protect wants to silence you. Tell me quickly, why did Zhu Xiqing come to Taiyuan? Where is he hiding now?" He is taking revenge. At that moment, Zhu Huiqing could feel his life draining away rapidly. After hearing Dugu Feiying's words, he opened his mouth, wanting to tell Dugu Feiying about the matter. However, he suddenly felt his head become extremely heavy. He wanted to fall asleep right there and then. He opened his mouth for a long time, but he couldn't even say a complete sentence. After spitting out 4 words intermittently, this guy's eyes rolled back, and he finally stopped breathing. At this time, not only did his neck turn black, but his entire face also turned black, and black blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Dugu Feiying was very unwilling, and he shouted in a low voice, "Where are you? What revenge? Wake up quickly!" As he spoke, Dugu Feiying reached out to check Zhu Huiqing's breathing, but he didn't feel anything. Dugu Feiying's heart suddenly sank to the bottom of the valley. What a strong poison, it actually kills the throat as soon as it touches blood. Dugu Feiying muttered to himself, and stood up, while Zhu Huiqing, who had no one to support him, fell to the ground. Dugu Feiying stood with his hands behind his back, his face as calm as water. He didn't say a word, and he was waiting for his subordinates to return. In the small house, the rest of the people saw Zhu Huiqing's tragic death, and all of them were so frightened that their faces turned pale, and their bodies trembled. They didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Dugu Feiying didn't have to wait for long. After about 15 minutes, Zhang Dafu brought a group of Imperial Guards back. "How was it? Did you catch the assassin?" Dugu Feiying's face darkened as he asked. Zhang Dafu's face was full of shame as he cupped his fists and said, "Reporting to General, that person's martial arts is very strong, especially his qigong is very good, and he should be a Grandmaster expert. I brought people to chase him down 2 streets, but in the end, he disappeared." Grandmaster expert. Dugu Feiying was shocked when he heard this. Although Grandmaster experts were the most powerful in this world, if a mortal wanted to reach the Grandmaster realm, talent, hard work, and opportunities were all indispensable. In this way, Grandmaster experts represented the top of the martial arts world, and there were only a few Grandmaster experts in this world. They were definitely not some common trash. To be able to send a Grandmaster expert to assassinate a person, how powerful was the other party? This question appeared in Dugu Feiying's mind, and it was terrifying to think about. From the martial arts, can you tell where the other party came from? After thinking for a while, Dugu Feiying frowned and asked. Zhang Dafu thought for a while and said shamefully, "We didn't fight with that person, and we were in a hurry to catch up to him, so we didn't look carefully." What he meant was that he couldn't tell. When Dugu Feiying heard this, he was instantly disappointed. He turned around and said sternly, "Set up defenses in this house. If anyone else sneaks in without a sound, you will all be punished according to military law." Zhang Dafu's face turned serious, and he quickly said, "Yes, General." Then, he looked at Zhu Huiqing, who was lying on the ground, from the corner of his eye, and mumbled, "General, he's dead. That person's needle is highly toxic, and it will kill the moment it touches blood. Later, use something to remove the needle, and then bury him." Without waiting for him to finish, Dugu Feiying said coldly, "Yes, General." Zhang Dafu cupped his fists and agreed, and then quickly went to arrange for people to do so. At this time, Dugu Feiying turned around and looked at the other people who were tied up. He said coldly, "Now you know how the person you want to protect treated you, right? If you don't want to end up like Zhu Huiqing, tell me what you know immediately, and I will ensure your safety. Otherwise, even if I don't kill you, your boss will send people to kill you." Chapter 1831. A living person was still, stubborn, in front of Dugu Feiying just a moment ago, and the next moment, he was bleeding from all 7 orifices and died on the spot. This kind of strong impact made the people who were caught by the Imperial Guards all change their expressions. Especially Dugu Feiying's last sentence, "Even if I don't kill you, your boss will send people to kill you. It directly broke down their inner defenses. Because anyone with a discerning eye could see that Zhu Huiqing's death was definitely caused by another group of people. Now, who wanted Zhu Huiqing to die? Perhaps anyone with a normal IQ could think of it. Under the immense fear of death, many people immediately took the initiative to jump out. The manservant named Zhao Fugue wanted to kneel down and kowtow to Dugu Feiying, but because his hands and feet were tied, he couldn't make any large movements. Thus, kowtowing became bowing over and over again. He repeatedly said, he kept saying, "General, please spare me. I'm really from Wutai County in Daizhou. I'm not a Turk. I've already told you everything I know. Please be merciful and let me live." After he finished speaking, another servant said, "General, I'm also from Wutai County in Daizhou. Like Zhao Fugue, I was recruited by Boss Zhu to transport goods in Taiyuan. However, there was one night when I woke up in the middle of the night and heard Boss Zhu and Zhu Huiqing talking. However, I didn't dare to get close at that time. I only vaguely heard Boss Zhu say big business. Contact. I have already told you everything I know. I beg the general to protect my safety. I have old and young to take care of. General, my name is Chu Mingxian. I'm the accountant of Chuji Ironware Shop. I know where the ironware shop's account book is hidden. I can take you there. These years, Boss Kong has done business with some unknown people many times. It's all recorded in the account book. In the face of a choice between life and death, no one wanted to die. So, driven by the desire to live, what was supposed to be an interrogation session turned into a confession session. 5 of Zhu Shiqing's followers and 6 of Chuji Ironware Shop's employees all rushed to confess what they knew, hoping that Dugu Feiying could protect them from being killed. Naturally, these people's words fell into Dugu Feiying's ears. Hearing these fragmented clues, Dugu Feiying suddenly felt a headache. He wasn't good at finding the truth from fragmented clues. This kind of thing should be his brother Dugu Xian's specialty. Suddenly, after hearing Chu Mingxian's confession, Dugu Feiying's eyes suddenly lit up. He quickly went forward and grabbed that person's shoulder, asking, "Since you're the ironware shop's accountant, do you know Kong Chanan's background? Where is he from? What kind of people does he usually? How many people does he have under him?" Chu Mingxian was sweating profusely. General, please forgive me. Although Boss Kong is the owner behind the scenes of the ironware shop, he rarely shows himself. I've been the ironware shop's accountant for 2 years, and I've only seen Boss Kong less than 10 times, let alone speak to him. So, I don't know Boss Kang's background. Seeing Dugu Feiying's face darken, Chu Mingxian's heart thumped. He thought quickly, then said, "General, although I don't know, our ironware shop's shopkeeper, Yi Funian, definitely knows. Shopkeeper Yi and Boss have the most dealings. If there's anyone in our ironware shop who knows Boss's background the most, it's definitely him." Dugu Feiying's heart skipped a beat and he quickly asked, "Okay. Then, who do you think is your ironware shop's shopkeeper among these people?" Chu Mingxian shook his head and said, "General, shopkeeper Yi is on sick leave today. He should be at home now." "Then, where does Yi Funian live?" Dugu Feiying's eyes flashed. Hearing this, Dugu Feiying pondered for a moment, then immediately made a decision. He roared, "Zhang Dafu!" Someone immediately ran in and shouted, "I'm here." A living person was still stubborn in front of Dugu Feiying just a moment ago, and the next moment, he was bleeding from all 7 orifices and died on the spot. This kind of strong impact caused the faces of those who were caught by the Imperial Army to change color. Especially Dugu Feiying's last sentence, "Even if I don't kill you, your boss will send people to kill you." It directly broke the line of defense in their hearts. Because anyone with a discerning eye could see that Zhu Huiqing's death was definitely caused by another group of people. And now, who wanted Zhu Huiqing to die? Anyone with a normal IQ would be able to figure it out. Under the immense fear of death, Instantly, many people took the initiative to jump out. The servant called Zhao Fugui wanted to kneel down and kowtow to Dugu Feiying, but because his hands and feet were tied, he couldn't make any large movements. Thus, kowtowing became bowing again and again. He repeatedly said, "General, please forgive me. I'm really from Daizhou's Wutai County. I'm not a Turk. I've already told you everything I know. I beg you to be magnanimous and let me live." After he finished speaking, another servant said, "General, I'm also from Daizhou's Wutai County. I'm the same as Zhao Fugui. I was recruited by Boss Zhu to transport goods in Taiyuan. However, there was one night when I woke up in the middle of the night and heard Boss Zhu and Zhu Huiqing talking. However, I didn't dare to get close at that time. I only vaguely heard Boss Zhu say big business. Contact. I have already told you everything I know. I beg the general to protect my safety. I have old and young to take care of. General, my name is Chu Mingxian. I'm the accountant of Chuji Ironware Shop. I know where the ironware shop's account book is hidden. I can take you there." These years, Boss Kong has done business with some unknown people many times. It's all recorded in the account book. In the face of a choice between life and death, no one wanted to die. Thus, driven by the desire to live, what was supposed to be an interrogation session turned into a confession session. 5 of Zhu Shiqing's followers and 6 of Chuji Ironware Shop's employees all scrambled to confess what they knew, hoping that Dugu Feiying could protect them from being killed. Naturally, these people's words all fell into Dugu Feiying's ears. Hearing these fragmented clues, Dugu Feiying suddenly felt a headache. This was because he wasn't good at finding the truth from fragmented clues. This kind of thing should be his brother Dugu Xian's specialty. Suddenly, after hearing Chu Mingxian's confession, Dugu Feiying's eyes suddenly lit up. He hurriedly went forward and grabbed that person's shoulder. "Since you're the accountant of the ironware shop, then do you know Kong Chang'an's background? Where is he from? What kind of people does he normally interact with? How many people does he have under him?" Chu Mingxian was sweating profusely. General, please forgive me. Although Boss Kong is the owner behind the scenes of the ironware shop, he rarely shows his face. I've been the accountant of the ironware shop for 2 years, and I've only seen Boss Kong less than 10 times, let alone speak to him. Thus, I don't know Boss Kang's background." Seeing Dugu Feiying's face darken, Chu Mingxian's heart skipped a beat. He thought quickly and hurriedly said, "General, although I don't know, our ironware shop's shopkeeper, Yi Funian, definitely knows. Shopkeeper Yi and Boss usually interact the most. If there's anyone in the ironware shop who knows Boss's background the most, it's definitely him." Dugu Feiying's heart skipped a beat. He hurriedly asked, "All right. Then tell me, who among these people is your ironware shop's shopkeeper?" Chu Mingxian shook his head and said, "General, shopkeeper Yi is on sick leave today. He should be at home right now." "Then where does Yi Funian stay?" Dugu Feiying's eyes flashed. Hearing this, Dugu Feiying pondered for a moment and immediately made a decision. He roared, "Zhang Dafu!" Someone immediately ran in from outside and shouted, "General is here!" A living person was still, stubborn, in front of Dugu Feiying just a moment ago, and the next moment, he was bleeding from all 7 orifices and died on the spot. This kind of strong impact caused the faces of those who were caught by the Imperial Army to change color. Especially Dugu Feiying's last sentence, "Even if I don't kill you, your boss will send people to kill you." It directly destroyed their inner defenses. Because anyone with a discerning eye could see that Zhu Huiqing's death was definitely caused by another group of people. And now, who wanted Zhu Huiqing to die? Anyone with a normal IQ would be able to figure it out, right? Under the immense fear of death, many people immediately took the initiative to jump out. The servant from before, called Zhao Fugui, wanted to kneel down and kowtow to Dugu Feiying, but because his hands and feet were tied, he couldn't make any large movements. Thus, kowtowing became bowing over and over again. He repeatedly said, "General, please forgive me. I'm really from Daijo's Wutai County. I'm not a Turk. I've already told you everything I know. Please be magnanimous and let me live." After he finished speaking, another servant said, "General, I'm also from Daijo's Wutai County. I'm the same as Zhao Fugue. I was recruited by Boss Zhu to transport goods in Taiyuan. But one night when I woke up, I heard Boss Zhu and Zhu Huiqing talking. But at that time, I didn't dare to get close. I only faintly heard Boss Zhu say the words big business. Contact. I've already told you everything I know. I beg the general to protect my safety. I have elders and children to take care of. General, my name is Chu Mingxian. I'm the bookkeeper of Chuji Ironware Shop. I know where the ironware shop's account book is hidden. I can take you there. These years, Boss Kong has done business with some unknown people many times. It's all recorded in the account book. In the face of a choice between life and death, no one wanted to die. Thus, driven by the desire to live, what was originally an interrogation session turned into a confession session. 5 of Zhu Shiqing's subordinates and 6 of Chuji Ironware Shop's workers and servants all rushed to confess what they knew, hoping that Dugu Feiying could protect them from being killed. Naturally, these people's words fell into Dugu Feiying's ears. Hearing these fragmented clues, Dugu Feiying suddenly felt a headache. This was because he wasn't good at finding the truth from fragmented clues. This kind of thing should be his brother Dugu Xian's specialty. Suddenly, after hearing Chu Mingxian's confession, Dugu Feiying's eyes suddenly lit up. He quickly went forward and grabbed that person's shoulder, asking, "Since you're the bookkeeper of the ironware shop, then do you know Kong Chang'an's background? Where is he from? What kind of people does he normally interact with? How many people does he have under him?" Chu Mingxian was sweating profusely as he said, "Ji General, please forgive me. Although Boss Kong is the owner of the ironware shop, he rarely shows his face. I've been working as an accountant for the ironware shop for 2 years, and I've only seen Boss Kong less than 10 times, much less spoken to him. That's why I don't know anything about Boss Kong." Seeing Dugu Feiying's face darken, Chu Mingxian's heart skipped a beat. He thought quickly and quickly said, "General, although I don't know, the shopkeeper of our ironware shop, Yi Funian, definitely knows. Shopkeeper Yi has the most dealings with Boss. If there's anyone in our ironware shop who knows Boss's background the most, it's definitely him." Dugu Feiying's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly asked, "All right? Then tell me, who among these people is the shopkeeper of your ironware shop?" Chu Mingxian shook his head and said, "General, shopkeeper Yi is on leave today due to illness. He should be at home now." "Then where does Yi Funian stay?" Dugu Feiying's eyes flashed. Hearing this, Dugu Feiying pondered for a moment and immediately made a decision. He shouted, "Zhang Dafu!" Someone immediately ran in from outside and shouted, "General is here." A living person was still, stubborn, in front of Dugu Feiying just a moment ago, and the next moment, he was bleeding from all 7 orifices and died on the spot. This kind of strong impact made the people who were caught by the Imperial Army change their expressions. Especially Dugu Feiying's last sentence, "Even if I don't kill you, your boss will send people to kill you." It directly broke down their inner defenses. Because anyone with a discerning eye could see that Zhu Huiqing's death was definitely caused by another group of people. And now, who wanted Zhu Huiqing to die? Anyone with a normal IQ would be able to figure it out, right? Under the immense fear of death, many people immediately took the initiative to jump out. The servant called Zhao Fugue wanted to kneel down and kowtow to Dugu Feiying, but because his hands and feet were tied, he couldn't make any large movements. Thus, kowtowing became bowing again and again. He repeatedly said, "General, please forgive me. I'm really from Daijo's Wutai County. I'm not a Turk. I've already told you everything I know. Please be merciful and let me live." After he finished speaking, another servant said, "General, I'm also from Daizhou's Wutai County. I'm the same as Zhao Fugue. I was recruited by Boss Zhu to transport goods in Taiyuan. But one night when I woke up, I heard Boss Zhu and Zhu Huiqing talking. But at that time, I didn't dare to get close. I only faintly heard Boss Zhu say the words big business. Contact. I've already told you everything I know. I beg the general to protect my safety. I have elders and children to take care of. General, my name is Chu Mingxian. I'm the bookkeeper of Chuji Ironware Shop. I know where the ironware shop's account book is hidden. I can take you there. These years, Boss Kong has done business with some unknown people many times. It's all recorded in the account book. In the face of a choice between life and death, no one wanted to die. Thus, driven by the desire to live, what was supposed to be an interrogation session turned into a confession session. 5 of Zhu Shiqing's followers and 6 of Chuji Ironware Shop's workers and servants all rushed to confess what they knew, hoping that Dugu Feiying could protect them from being killed. Naturally, these people's words fell into Dugu Feiying's ears. Hearing these fragmented clues, Dugu Feiying suddenly felt a headache. This was because he wasn't good at finding the truth from fragmented clues. This kind of thing should be his brother Dugu Xian's specialty. Suddenly, after hearing Chu Mingxian's confession, Dugu Feiying's eyes suddenly lit up. He quickly went forward and grabbed the man's shoulder, asking, "Since you're the bookkeeper of the ironware shop, then do you know Kong Chanan's background? Where is he from? What kind of people does he normally interact with? How many people does he have under him?" Chu Mingxian was sweating profusely. General, please forgive me. Although Boss Kong is the owner behind the scenes of the ironware shop, he rarely shows his face. I've been the bookkeeper of the ironware shop for 2 years, and I've only seen Boss Kong less than 10 times, let alone speak to him. That's why I don't know Boss Kang's background. Seeing Dugu Feiying's face darken, Chu Mingxian's heart skipped a beat. He thought quickly, then quickly said, "General, although I don't know, the shopkeeper of our ironware shop, Yi Funian, definitely knows. Shopkeeper Yi and Boss usually interact the most. If there's anyone in our ironware shop who knows Boss's background the most, it's definitely him." Dugu Feiying's heart skipped a beat and he quickly asked, "All right? Then tell me, who among these people is the shopkeeper of your ironware shop?" Chu Mingxian shook his head and said, "General, shopkeeper Yi is on sick leave today. He should be at home right now." "Then where does Yi Funian live?" Dugu Feiying's eyes flashed. Hearing this, Dugu Feiying pondered for a moment, then immediately made a decision. He shouted, "Zhang Dafu!" Someone immediately ran in from outside and shouted, "General is here!" Chapter 1832. I am the County Magistrate of Lantian County. Today, the Yan Huang Chamber of Commerce is holding a donation event in Lantian County. I represent the County Magistrate of Lantian County and the people of Lantian County to welcome everyone and thank everyone for your generosity. County Magistrate, he did not act like the other merchants who wanted to donate and directly walked to the donation box with the donation board. Instead, he walked to the side of Lin Wenyuan. The latter understood and passed the loudspeaker in his hand to County Magistrate He. County Magistrate He took it and then used the loudspeaker's amplification function to speak loudly to the people present. At the beginning of this year, Marquis established the Department of Commerce in Lantian County. The purpose of the Department of Commerce is to create a good business environment for merchants. Although the business tax rate has been raised, the status of merchants has also been raised. In Lantian County, merchants, farmers, and craftsmen are all classified as commoners and the government treats them equally. Furthermore, the children of merchants can also enter the school. In this way, merchants can do business in Lantian County with peace of mind and will not be disturbed. In less than a year, Lantian County's business has flourished and the county magistrate's treasury still has a lot of surplus. Previously, Marquis had told me that the county magistrate's office usually collects taxes from merchants and commoners, but the taxes collected must all be taken from the people and used by the people. Today, the Northern Turks are eyeing Tang. Although my Lantian County magistrate is not as wealthy as everyone here, we are still willing to contribute to the imperial court. Therefore, I will donate 10,000 strings of cash from the county magistrate's treasury to the imperial court in hopes that the imperial court can defeat the Turks and completely pacify the Northern Turks. This is also the sincerity of the people of Lantian County towards Tang and His Majesty. As the host, it was understandable for county magistrate he to say some pretty words in front of these merchants who came from afar. However, what he said wasn't just for show. There was a deeper meaning behind it. That was to use this fundraising event to spread the signboard of Lantian County, attracting more merchants to do business in Lantian County. Sure enough, as soon as county magistrate he finished speaking, there was a burst of cheers from the audience and outside the inn. Wow! Lantian County magistrate is so generous, donating 10,000 strings of cash. Good. Take from the people and use it for the people. Marquis said it well. County magistrate you did well. The current Lantian County has really changed a lot. There are more and more shops and people. This is all thanks to Marquis' Department of Commerce. Yes. But why did I hear that the Department of Commerce changed the business tax ratio from 1 in 30 to 1 in 6? It's increased by 5 times. It has indeed increased by 5 times. But the status of us merchants has also increased. Furthermore, you're doing business in Lantian County, so you don't have to worry about your safety. There's no ruffians or gangsters who would dare to cause trouble for you. You can be at ease. In the long run, I can only earn more every month than before. Of course. Just look at the number of merchants in Lantian County, and you'll know. None of us are fools. If there are no benefits, who would be willing to do business in Lantian County? That's right. The discussions of the merchants naturally fell into county magistrate's ears, but he didn't have the time to enjoy the praise. After he finished speaking, he returned the loudspeaker to Lin Wenyuan. As the time for the fundraiser was very tight, it was already very rare for Lin Wenyuan to give him a chance to speak alone. Furthermore, he had to deliver the fundraising signboard and go to the second floor to handle the procedures for the transfer of funds. At this moment, Xiao Yu was sitting on the ground in a daze. County magistrate's words just now had already set off a huge wave in his heart that was as calm as an ancient well. The purpose of the Department of Commerce is to create a good business environment for merchants. In Lantian County, merchants, farmers, and craftsmen are all classified as commoners. The government treats them all equally. Take from the people and use it for the people. Every decree of Lantian County would cause a huge uproar in other counties. This was because every decree, to the traditional old pedants, was considered to be treason and heresy. It was only because this was Lantian County, Li Zishuan's fief, that no one cared about it. This was because as long as Li Zishuan didn't rebel in his fief, Li Er wouldn't do anything to him even if he did something out of line. Since ancient times, the vassal kings and important ministers were all like this. Previously, when the Department of Commerce was established in Lantian County, Xiao Yu, as the Minister of Revenue, had more or less heard about it. However, at that time, he didn't pay much attention to the Department of Commerce. He thought that it was just a playful move by Li Zishuan, and that it wouldn't amount to much. But now, after hearing County Magistrate's systematic explanation of the government decrees issued by the Department of Commerce and the administration philosophy, coupled with the indisputable fact that Lantian County's business was flourishing, Xiao Yu's shock and sudden enlightenment were indescribable. It turned out that merchants could exert such great power. To think that as the Minister of Revenue, His main duty was to manage the great Tang's purse for Li heir. But now, the achievements of Lantian County made him, a veteran of 3 dynasties, feel ashamed. In the entire Great Tang, Lantian County was considered a middle-class county. But this middle-class county's annual business tax revenue was far more than 10,000 strings of coins. The reason why it was far more than 10,000 strings of coins was because the Department of Commerce had only been established for half a year. But now, county magistrate, he was able to donate 10,000 strings of coins to the court. What did this mean? This meant that through a series of business tax reforms, Lantian County's county office had collected more than 10,000 strings of coins in just half a year. Didn't this mean that Lantian County's annual business tax revenue was more than 20,000 strings of coins? One had to know that this was only the first year of Lantian County's business tax reform. As the reputation of Lantian County spread among the merchants, the business of Lantian County was bound to flourish. When the time came, no one could predict how much business tax this middle-class county would collect in a year. But it would definitely be more than now, not less. Just imagine, if all the provinces and counties of the Great Tang were as awesome as Lantian County. No, even if they were only 1/5 as awesome as Lantian County, given that the Great Tang currently had more than 1,500 counties, just the tax on commerce alone would add up to 6 million strings of coins. 6 million strings of coins. Thinking of this number, Xiao Yu found it difficult to breathe. If the Great Tang's imperial court could collect 6 million strings of coins every year, it wouldn't be a problem to arm 10 elite troops like the Black Armored Army. At that time, wouldn't fighting a mere Turkic barbarian be as easy as beating up a sun? Xiao Shangshu. Minister Xiao. Just when Xiao Yu's imagination was running wild because of the county magistrate's words, the low-ranking official beside him woke him up from his beautiful fantasy. After coming back to his senses, Xiao Yu frowned and said unhappily, "What is it?" It turned out that this old man was still angry that his beautiful dream of Great Tang was disturbed. Minister Xiao, county magistrate, he bid farewell to you just now. You didn't hear him. He told me to tell you that he still has work to do in the county office, so he'll be leaving first. Also, Boss Lin is about to call out shopkeeper Mo's name. Seeing Xiao Yu's displeased expression, the low-ranking official's heart skipped a beat. He didn't know how he had offended Xiao Yu, but he still mustered up his courage and spoke carefully. Speaking of which, Xiao Yu had been in a daze for quite a long time. He didn't even hear county magistrate he greet him when he returned to his seat. At this moment, the fundraising event was nearing its end. Oh. Then prepare yourself and go up in place of shopkeeper Mo later. Hearing this, Xiao Yu calmed himself down and said to the low-ranking official. Yes. The low-ranking official replied. Then, he calmed himself down and sat by the side, waiting silently. Clear Ink Shop, Mo Tongming, donates 500 strings of coins. Not long after, Lin Wenyuan shouted from above. The low-ranking official beside Xiao Yu immediately stood up and walked forward. At this moment, the people below couldn't help but whisper among themselves. Clear Ink Shop? If I remember correctly, isn't this Clear Ink Shop a shop in Xiao Ji's hometown? That's right, that's right. It's Minister Zhao's family. I heard that Minister Xiao likes calligraphy and painting, so he opened this shop. Hiss. Does that mean that Minister Xiao is also donating today? Businessmen were indeed the most well-informed. As soon as Lin Wenyuan finished speaking, some people had already guessed the owner behind Clear Ink Shop. That's right, Xiao Yu was also donating today. He had asked the low-ranking official to withdraw the money and also gave the low-ranking official the deed of Clear Ink Shop so that the latter could register the donation in Clear Ink Shop's name at the entrance of the inn. Although 500 strings of coins wasn't much, it was his way of expressing his sincerity to Li heir. Although he was an elder of 3 dynasties, he had always been an honest official. His family's wealth couldn't compare to these rich businessmen in the inn's lobby. As for his identity being guessed, Xiao Yu didn't care at all. It was even better if someone guessed it. He thought to himself that no one would say that he was stingy, disloyal, and patriotic, right? On Lin Wenyuan's side, after reading out Clear Ink Shop's name, he read out 2 more names. Finally, everyone on the list was read out. Lin Wenyuan pursed his dry lips and heaved a sigh of relief. He said, "Everyone, today's fundraising event ends here." Wait! Lin Wenyuan was about to announce to everyone that the fundraising event was about to end, but before he could finish speaking, 2 youths walked in with 2 servants. One of the older youths said loudly, "Boss Lin, please bring us along. The 2 of us also want to donate money." As the youth spoke, he waved the fundraising card in his hand. Everyone took a closer look and gasped. They saw the words 30,000 strings of coins written on the card. A young man actually wanted to donate 30,000 strings of coins to the imperial court? Who exactly was this young man? Chapter 1833. Fanyang Lu family donates 30,000 strings of cash. At the same time as the 2 youths walked in, a pageboy quickly walked up to Lin Wenyuan and handed him a piece of paper. Lin Wenyuan's expression changed when he read it. After a moment, he calmed himself down, put the loudspeaker to his mouth, and shouted, "Wow! Fanyang Lu family? Why are they here to join in the fun?" Yes, the Lu family is one of the 5 surnames and 7 watches. Why would they come all the way here to participate in the fundraising event and send money to the court? How is that possible? Haha! It's not the 5 surnames and 7 watches anymore, but the 3 surnames and 4 watches now. So what? Right now, the Lu family is not something that ordinary people like us can associate with. Looks like the Lu family is planning to side with the court. Isn't that the Lu family's young master, Lu Qingqing? Why is he here personally? Lu Qingqing? TSK, if this young man is Lu Qingqing, then who is the other young man beside him? The crowd inside and outside the inn was in an uproar again. Everyone was deeply surprised by the arrival of the Fanyang Lu family. Of course, some of them actually recognized the young man's identity. He was the eldest son of the Fanyang Lu family, Lu Qingqing, who had just rushed to Lantian County from Qizhou. As for the person beside Lu Qingqing, it was the eldest son of the Li family from Zhao County, Li Jingxian. The 2 of them had rushed all the way from Qizhou and finally made it to today's fundraising event. The Lu family and the Li family from Zhao County had many businesses in Chang'an. It was not difficult for them to get a few store deeds. With the deeds, they quickly completed the registration for the fundraising event. However, Lu Qingqing insisted on donating in the name of the Fanyang Lu family and not one of the Lu family's stores during registration. The staff member, at the entrance of the inn who was in charge of registering the participants, was firstly intimidated by the Lu family's immense power and influence. Secondly, when Lu Qingqing signed up, he showed several store deed. If Lu Qingqing were to participate in the fundraising event under the name of one of the Lu family's stores, the staff member wouldn't know how to choose. Coincidentally, the fundraising event was coming to an end and he didn't want to waste any time. Therefore, Lu Qingqing was able to participate in the fundraising event under the name of Fanyang's Lu family. The reason why he insisted on doing this was very simple. He was attending the fundraiser today for Li Zixuan and Li Zixuan to see. Since that was the case, why would he participate in the fundraiser in the name of his shop like Qin Qiong, Xiao Yu, and the others? He didn't want to and couldn't conceal his identity, because there were many shops under the Lu family's name. If he attended the fundraiser under the name of one of the shops, it was hard to guarantee that everyone would recognize him. He wanted everyone present today to know that Fanyang's Lu family had participated in the fundraiser and had donated 30,000 strings of cash. Since he had done a good deed, He had to leave his name behind and let everyone know. From a certain perspective, Lu Qingqing's concept of doing good was somewhat similar to Li Zixuan's. However, Lu Qingqing did it more for the sake of his family, while Li Zixuan did it to create a virtuous cycle in society. That was why he fought for more benefits for those who did good, such as how he treated those who donated to the Warm Tang Foundation. Before leaving Qizhou, Lu Qingqing and Li Jingxian had both sent the news of their intention to participate in the fundraising event back to their ancestral home. After arriving in Chang'an, they had received a reply from their respective families' information channels. Both of them had received the support of some of the elders in their family. That was why they were now so openly and with such great fanfare, wanting to participate in the fundraising event under their family's name. Amidst the exclamations and discussions of the crowd, Lu Qingqing personally held the donation card in his hand and walked toward the donation box. When they were registering, the person in charge of registration outside the inn had already explained the general process of the fundraiser to the two of them. The Li family of Zhao County donates 30,000 strings of cash. After seeing Lu Qingqing throw the donation card into the donation box and follow the venue's staff to the second floor, Lin Wenyuan took a deep breath and shouted, "The Li family of Zhao County. This person is actually from the Li family of Zhao County. Hey, what's so strange about that? Since the young man from before is the eldest son of Fanyang's Lu family, that means that this young man's status isn't low. If that's the case, it's not strange at all that this person is from the Li family of Zhao County. Who knows, he might even be the eldest son of the Li family of Zhao County. Tisk Tsk. The Wang family of Taiyuan, the Lu family of Fanyang, and the Li family of Zhao County are all here. Today, 3 of the 4 great 1,000-year-old families in the world are here." Chapter 1834. What? There's actually such a thing? Dragon Gate Inn, in a room on the second floor. Lin Wenyuan was slightly shocked when he heard the servants say that the commoners outside the inn were clamoring to come in and donate money. Xiao Yu muttered to himself for a moment before saying, "Let's go. Let's go out and take a look." Lin Wenyuan naturally had no objections. Then, under the servants' lead, the two of them went down the stairs and quickly arrived outside the inn. They saw that the open space outside the inn was filled with all sorts of people. These people had been outside the inn to watch the show earlier, but they didn't immediately leave after the donation gathering ended. Many of them felt empty in their hearts, as if something was missing. Immediately after, a scholar in the crowd stepped forward and wanted to enter the inn, but he was stopped by the inn's guards. The guards said that the inn wasn't receiving guests today, but the scholar said that he wasn't here to stay but to donate money. This made things very difficult for the guards. Because this donation gathering was only open to merchants, the youth in front of them was clearly a scholar. Moreover, the donation gathering had already ended, so the guards knew that Lin Wenyuan was definitely ordering people to count the money in the inn. At such a critical moment, how could they let some unrelated people in? If something happened, they couldn't bear the responsibility. Therefore, no matter what the scholar said, the guards in front of the inn refused to budge an inch. The commotion here quickly attracted the attention of the crowd outside the inn. After the crowd asked for the reason, they all began to support the scholar, because what the scholar said was exactly what they were thinking. That's right, most of them also wanted to donate. Although these people weren't as rich as the merchants, just as Lin Wenyuan had said at the start of the donation gathering, the rise and fall of the country is the responsibility of all citizens. The Great Tang is not the Great Tang of a single person, but the Great Tang of millions of people. Now that the country is facing a crisis, if we don't prioritize righteousness over righteousness, how can we talk about benefits in the future? Even the merchants, who had always prioritized benefits over righteousness in the eyes of the secular world, could be so generous when the country was in danger. If these people still remained indifferent, wouldn't they be even more prioritizing benefits over righteousness than the merchants? In the beginning, there were only a few people who agreed with the scholar, but slowly, more and more people joined in. Half an hour later, there were nearly 1,000 people blocking the entrance of Dragon Gate Inn. Seeing that the situation was about to spiral out of control, the guard at the entrance of the inn hurriedly sent someone to inform Lin Wenyuan. When Xiao Yu and Lin Wenyuan arrived at the entrance of the inn, this was the scene that greeted them. "Boss Lin is out!" "Great! Boss Lin is out!" Seeing Lin Wenyuan walk out, there was a commotion in the crowd. In their opinion, Lin Wenyuan was definitely more reasonable than the guards at the door. Moreover, Lin Wenyuan had the right to decide if they wanted to donate money. This Elder Xiao has also come out. Soon, the crowd noticed the dignified old man wearing a scarlet official's robe beside Lin Wenyuan. Many people had seen Xiao Yu before the donation gathering, so he was quickly recognized. The crowd, which had been noisy a moment ago, immediately quieted down. They were just ordinary people. They didn't have to fear Lin Wenyuan, but they had to respect Xiao Yu, a high official of the imperial court. Chapter 1835. Someone actually dared to kill someone right under the nose of the imperial army, and that person is definitely related to that mysterious Shadow man. "Madam, where do you think the killer is from?" Taiyuan, the Wang family's ancestral home, in a side hall in the backyard of the Wang family's residence. Wang Yu could not help but frown as he looked at the slip of paper that the Wang clan's secret guard had just sent over. As he spoke, he handed the note to Princess Tang, who was sitting next to him. Princess Tang took the note, and when she read its contents, she couldn't help but frown. Things are getting more and more unpredictable. On the surface, the killer is probably that Shadow man named Zhu Xieqing. If that's the case, then my previous deduction might be wrong. Zhu Xieqing is a Turkic spy hiding in Taiyuan City, and his status might not be low. Otherwise, he wouldn't have sent a Grandmaster-level assassin to kill a key witness right under the nose of the Imperial Army. When Princess Tang and Wang Bingjun learned that Dugu Feiying had come to ask for help, they had thought that the possibility of Zhu Xieqing being a Turkic spy was low, because a true Turkic spy wouldn't be exposed so easily. However, now that the only person who could identify Zhu Xieqing had been assassinated, Zhu Xieqing naturally became the most suspicious person. According to the intelligence, the person who had assassinated the witness was a Grandmaster-level expert. For such an expert to be willing to follow Zhu Xieqing's orders meant that Zhu Xieqing's identity and status were not as simple as a Shadow merchant. In the current perilous situation, the possibility of Zhu Xieqing being a Turkic spy was many times higher than before. After hearing Princess Tang's words, Wang Yu nodded slightly. Indeed. However, the most important thing right now is to find Zhu Xieqing and Kong Chang'an as soon as possible. King Wei and the others will arrive in Taiyuan City soon. If we can't catch Zhu Xieqing and Kong Chang'an before then, Your Highness and the people from Yanhuang College will be in trouble while they are in Taiyuan. The Turks won't let this matter rest, and they might have already found out some information. Princess Tang was slightly surprised. Master, are you saying that the Turks have already found out the purpose of Qin Kai and the others heading north? According to seniority, Princess Tang was Li Tai's aunt and Li Er's great-aunt. Thus, it was not inappropriate for her to call Li Tai Qin Kai. Wang Yu sighed and said, "Even if they don't know everything, I'm afraid they've found some scattered clues. Otherwise, they wouldn't have spent so much effort to set up an ambush at the place where King Wei and the others are staying this time, Tongfu Inn." Wang Yu suddenly thought of something. He turned to Princess Tang and asked, "Madam, since the inn isn't safe, why don't we let King Wei and the others stay in the Wang estate? This way, even if there are Grandmaster-level experts among the Turk spies, they won't be able to harm King Wei and the others under the heavy protection of our Wang estate's hidden guards." Wang Yu's idea was not bad. Since the danger of the Tongfu Inn had not been completely eliminated, they could settle Li Tai and the others in the Wang estate's ancestral home. In any case, the Wang estate had plenty of empty courtyards, and with the Wang estate's hidden guards protecting them, it would be more difficult than ascending to the heavens for the Turk spies to do anything to Li Tai and the others. Unexpectedly, Princess Tang shook her head. Absolutely not. Wang Yu was puzzled. What do you mean, madam? Princess Tang was a strong-willed and opinionated woman, so Wang Yu would often seek her opinion of his own accord. Has husband ever thought about what would happen if something happened to Qin Ke and the others while they were staying in the Wang estate? Princess Tang frowned. Letting Qin Ke and the others stay in the Wang estate will reduce their danger, but that doesn't mean that there won't be any danger at all. If something happens, the Wang estate will suffer His Majesty's wrath. Thus, even if this concubine agrees to husband's plan, the clan elders and the rest of the Wang estate will not agree. Because the Wang estate cannot bear this risk. Wang Yu frowned for a moment before sighing. Madam is right. While this plan will reduce the danger to His Highness and the others, it will also put the Wang estate in danger. As the head of the Wang clan, Wang Yu understood the responsibility on his shoulders, and he also understood that the clan's interests were paramount. Thus, this plan was quickly discarded in his mind. At this moment there was a knock on the door, followed by a familiar voice. Reporting to Patriarch, King Wei's convoy is only 2 li from the city gate and will soon enter the city. The person outside was the Grand Commander of the Wang clan's hidden guards, Wang Chungu, a trusted aide of the chief branch. Wang Yu's heart trembled as he called out, "Come in." Yes. Creak. Wang Chungu pushed open the door and entered, closing it behind him. Wang Yu immediately asked, "How is General Dugu's side? Did you manage to capture the shopkeeper of the Chuji ironware shop and obtain the account books?" Wang Chungu bowed. Replying to Patriarch, according to the report, by the time the Imperial Army arrived at Xuanren Market, the shopkeeper of the Chuji ironware shop, Yi Funian, had already died in his home. His throat had been slit by a sharp blade, and this matter had already alerted the county yamen and the provincial governor's residence. In addition, by the time General Dugu and the others arrived at the Chuji ironware shop, the account books had already been found and burned in the hall. Fortunately, General Dugu was fast enough, and only the first half of the account books were burned. What? Wang Yu was overwhelmed with shock when he heard this. Princess Tang waved her hand at Wang Chungu and said, "All right, Chungu, you may leave first." "Yes, Your Highness." Wang Chungu bowed and accepted the order, then turned and left. Wang Chungu bowed and left as well. "Madam, why does this old man feel like the mastermind behind the scenes has been spying on our every move this entire time, and is always ahead of us in every matter?" Wang Yu frowned after a few moments of silence. Princess Tang paused for a moment and then she probed, "Master, do you mean to say that there are Turk spies at our side or General Dugu's side?" Wang Yu shook his head. "It's probably impossible with the Imperial Army, and as for us, forget it. Let's not talk about this for now." Wang Yu suddenly paused. He looked at Princess Tang and then asked, "King Wei and the others are about to enter the city. Does Madam want to accompany your husband to the city gates to take a look?" Princess Tang nodded without hesitation. "Of course. This humble one is Qingchue's elder, and this is the first time this child has come to Sorespeak City. You and I just happen to be here, so we should act as hosts. Ha ha. Since that's the case, let's go together," Wang Yu said with a chuckle. On the other side, Dugu Feiying, who had split his men into 2 groups, found nothing. Well, it could not be said that they found nothing. At the very least, he managed to snatch back half of the account book. At this moment, Dugu Feiying was extremely gloomy. He felt like his every move was known in advance, and there was always someone ahead of him to obstruct him from investigating what he wanted to investigate. From the looks of the wound, the person who killed Yi Funian used a knife and not a sword. However, the authorities have searched the entire Yi residence, but they did not find the murder weapon. Now, the entire Xuanren market has been sealed off. The county yamen constables are searching from house to house, and asking the people if they have seen any suspicious characters. Zhang Dafu was reporting the latest progress of the case to Dugu Feiying, whose face was dark. Dugu Feiying let out a deep sigh and said, "From the looks of it, the person who killed Yi Funian and the person who tried to assassinate Zhu Huiqing aren't the same person?" Zhang Dafu thought for a moment and said, "From the weapons used by the murderer, it does seem like they are not the same person, but we can't rule out the possibility that the murderer used both weapons to confuse the public." Dugu Feiying shook his head and said nothing. His intuition told him that these two murders were not done by the same person, but he could not find any direct evidence at the moment. As for the names listed in the account book of the Chuji ironware shop, this general has already sent people to investigate with Chu Mingxian. Seeing that Dugu Feiying was silent, Zhang Dafu continued to report. Continue to investigate. Remember, you must protect that half of the account book well." Dugu Feiying nodded and gave his orders. He had brought 30 Imperial Army elites to Taiyuan City a day in advance, so that he could eliminate the hidden dangers in Taiyuan City before Li Tai and the others arrived. But now, not only had he failed to capture a single Turkic spy, key witnesses had been killed one after another. This made him feel very embarrassed, and this half of the account book was the only thing that could comfort him. This general obeys. Zhang Dafu bowed. "It's getting late. His Highness's group should be arriving soon. Take a few people and follow me out of the city to welcome them. The rest of you, stay here and watch over Chu Mingxian's group." Dugu Feiying looked out the window and said, his hands behind his back, "Yes." Soon, they came out of a house near the Tongfu Inn and went straight to the southern city gate. At this moment, in a private room on the third floor of a restaurant near the southern city gate, a middle-aged man wearing a scholarly robe and holding a feather fan stood by the window. He looked at the faint appearance of a group of people outside the city. He waved his feather fan and chuckled softly. "Ha ha! The real big fish has finally taken the bait, King Wei. Ha ha, since you've entered the game, no one can save you. Just relax and be a fish that has taken the bait." A gust of wind blew through the middle-aged man's hair. The way he stood against the wind and gently waved his feather fan was somewhat similar to the legendary Zhuge Kongming, who had a feather fan and a silk scarf. Everything was under his control. Cough cough, but when he looked at that person's appearance again, it was an ordinary face that couldn't be any more ordinary. It was completely incompatible with his ethereal temperament. Chapter 1836. Big Brother! You've finally arrived. On the road to Li to the south of Taiyuan City, Dugu Feiying had arrived with 3 Imperial Army soldiers and was about to welcome Dugu Xian's group. Dugu Feiying hurriedly stepped forward. Upon seeing his big brother, Dugu Feiying inexplicably felt a sense of relief. This was the trust he had built up in Dugu Xian as a child. Although Sorespeak City was in a perilous situation, he was confident that with Dugu Xian here, those demons and monsters hiding in the shadows would be exposed. Dugu Xian nodded and went straight to the point. "What is the situation in Sorespeak City?" Dugu Feiying's face instantly turned grim, and after a few moments of silence, he said, "Big brother, the situation in the city is not optimistic. Yesterday, after we entered the city, we began to secretly investigate the new guests of the inn. In the end, we discovered a Turkic merchant disguised as a Han. His name was Zhu Hongxing, and his movements were extremely suspicious, so I sent people to keep an eye on him. Today, that Turkic merchant went to an ironware shop in the city, but not long after, that merchant and the shop's owner and workers all disappeared into thin air under the eyes of our brothers. Later, through investigation, we discovered that there was a secret passage in the ironware shop that led directly to another house to the west of the ironware shop. The Turkic merchant and the ironware shop's workers had escaped through that secret passage, but by the time our men reached the house on the other side of the secret passage, there was not a single person inside. At the time, I felt that there was something wrong with that Turkic merchant and the shopkeeper of the smithy, that they were probably spies the Turks had planted in Sorspeak City. Thus, I had Zhang Dafu and the others pursue the two of them. But my manpower was limited, and finding the two of them in Taiyuan City in a short amount of time was far too difficult. It just so happened that at noon, the head of the Wang clan, Governor Wang Yu of Suizhou, returned to Taiyuan. Thus, I went to the Wang clan to request assistance from Wang Yu, hoping that the Wang clan's guards could join us in pursuing that Turkic merchant and the shopkeeper of the ironware shop. What? You went to the Wang clan to ask for reinforcements? Does this mean that Governor Wang already knows that Your Highness has come to Sorspeak? Hearing this, Dugu Xian's face was filled with shock. He interrupted Dugu Feiying and questioned. Hearing Dugu Xian's unfriendly tone, Dugu Feiying couldn't help but shrink his neck in fear. Big brother, Provincial Governor Wang is a member of the imperial family, and his son, Wang Renbiao, is on good terms with the Marquis of Yong'an. Be it for public or private reasons, he should stand on our side on this matter. Moreover, the situation at the time was truly urgent. If I hadn't been able to quickly track down that Turkic merchant and the owner of the ironware shop, they might have escaped the city, making it even harder to capture them. At this point, Dugu Feiying didn't dare to continue because he noticed that Dugu Xian's face was ashen. Nonsense. Hearing this, Dugu Xian couldn't help but reprimand in a low voice. The objective of His Highness's expedition to the north is a top secret among top secrets. How could you tell others so easily? If Your Highness falls into danger because of this, not to mention me, even Father won't be able to protect you. Big brother, what should we do now? Dugu Feiying hesitated for a few moments before asking. Dugu Xian helplessly said, Now that things have come to this, there's no point in saying anything more. For now, we can only take things one step at a time. Continue speaking. After you asked the Wang clan for help, did you manage to capture that Turkic merchant called Zhu Hongxing and the owner of the ironware shop? Seeing that Dugu Xian had no intention of pursuing the matter, Dugu Feiying breathed a sigh of relief and continued. Strangely enough, after Provincial Governor Wang agreed to help us, quite a few factions appeared in Taiyuan City, both on the surface and in the shadows. Countless people were searching for the Turkic merchant and the owner of the ironware shop, but even so, we were unable to capture them. However, we managed to capture their retainers. Through torture and interrogation, we learned from those retainers that the Turkic merchant was called Zhu Shiqing, a member of the Shadua tribe. The owner of the ironware shop was called Kong Chang'an. This man has always been mysterious, and very few people know of his background. In the end, with the help of the bookkeeper of the ironware shop, we managed to obtain the books of the ironware shop, but the process did not go smoothly. At this point, Dugu Feiying briefly told Dugu Xian about how the key witness, Zhu Huiqing, was killed and the account books were almost completely burned. After listening, Dugu Xian deeply furrowed his brows. At this time, he realized just how complicated the current situation in Sorspeak City was. It was as if there was an invisible hand controlling everything in the dark. The other party had probably laid down a dark net in Sorspeak City and was just waiting for them to crawl in. Seeing Dugu Xian's frown and silence, Dugu Feiying, who believed that he had messed up, didn't dare to say anything. The two brothers rode at the front of the convoy. Suddenly, Dugu Xian's eyes focused and he sternly said, Feiying, quickly enter the city and seek an audience with the Bing province governor. Say that the Northern Yamen Imperial Army has been ordered to protect His Highness King Wei's group and needs to enter the city. Ah! Dugu Feiying was alarmed. It was true that the 1,000 Imperial Army soldiers had been protecting Li Tai's group, but when Li Tai's group was resting in the county, the main force of the Imperial Army would camp outside the city and not follow them into the city. Only a small portion of the Imperial Army would be led by Dugu Xian to protect Li Tai. If there was an emergency inside the city, Dugu Xian would use fireworks as a warning, and only then would the soldiers outside enter the city. Dugu Xian was now ordering all 1,000 Imperial Army soldiers to enter the city. This abnormal action left Dugu Feiying very confused. "Big brother, why do you want to do this? With so many of us entering the city, the Turkic spies will definitely notice us. Isn't it said that spears are easy to dodge but arrows from the shadows are hard to guard against?" Dugu Xian snapped. "The reason we didn't allow anyone to enter the city in the past was indeed to avoid being noticed by the Turkic spies, lest they cause trouble for us on the road. But now that you've caused such a huge commotion in Taiyuan City with the help of the Wang clan, unless the Turkic spies in the city are deaf and blind, they will definitely notice that something is amiss. We've already moved from the shadows to the light. I even suspect that the Turks already know part of the goal of the Academy's group." At this point, Dugu Xian could not help but feel a headache coming on. He had sent Dugu Feiying to Sorespeak City first, intending to let him operate in secret. However, Sorespeak City had been turned upside down by Dugu Feiying and the Wang family's forces. It was impossible for him to operate in secret like before. They had been forced from the shadows into the light, and they were now in a passive position. They didn't even know who their enemy was or what their goal was. Then what do we do? If the Turkic Khagan learns of the goal of Your Highness and the Academy's group, won't he go mad and send soldiers to Taiyuan City to capture Your Highness and the Academy's teachers and students? Dugu Feiying inexplicably panicked at Dugu Xian's words. A little more than a month ago, the state teacher of the Turkic Khaganate, Wu Jie, had risked his life to infiltrate the Cloud Mountains for the sake of obtaining confidential information from the Academy. If the Turkic Khagan learned of the goal of Li Tai's group, there was no guarantee that he wouldn't send elite soldiers to cause trouble. When the time came, Li Tai and the Academy group would either be captured or killed. No matter what the outcome was, it was not something they could bear. So before you left, I warned you that no matter what, you were not allowed to tell anyone about the mission of Your Highness's group. Dugu Xian glared at Dugu Feiying and angrily said, "At this point, the spies the Turks have planted in Taiyuan City must know something, but Taiyuan City is several hundred li away from the Turkic Khaganate, so they won't have time to send back the news. Since this is the case, there is no need for us to continue hiding. We might as well bring out all our strength. This is Taiyuan City, not the border of the Empire. Even if the Turks have some spies in Taiyuan City, as long as we protect Your Highness and the Academy, they won't be able to find us. Immediately enter the city and head to the provincial governor's residence to inform the Bingzhou governor. Since the danger in Tongfu Inn has yet to be eliminated, once we enter the city, we won't stay in the inn. We'll stay in one of the relay stations in the city. It will be easier for our brothers to set up defenses there." Dugu Feiying felt that his brother's words were reasonable and hurriedly cupped his fist. "Yes, big brother. I'll go to the provincial governor's residence." Seeing that Dugu Xian had nothing else to say, he urged his horse to leave the group and gallop toward the city gate. Actually, with Dugu Feiying's personality, he preferred to fight in the open. Hiding in the dark was not his forte. Now that Dugu Xian had decided to reveal his identity and lead the army into the city, this was exactly what he wanted. After Dugu Feiying left, Dugu Xian rode his horse to Li Tai's carriage. After briefly introducing the complex situation in Taiyuan City to Li Tai, Dugu Xian proposed to lead his army into the city and move to a relay station instead of an inn. The mood in the carriage suddenly turned solemn. Iron Egg, Qin Huayu, and Meng Wenhao all turned to Li Tai, waiting for his decision. After a few moments of silence, Li Tai sternly said. Since that's the case, we'll follow General Dugu's arrangements. We have to be extremely careful in these unusual times. Seeing that Li Tai was willing to cooperate, Dugu Xian let out a sigh of relief. If this was the Li Tai of 2 years ago, he would definitely not be so understanding. After all, in terms of comfort, a relay station was definitely far inferior to a large inn like Tongfu Inn. Thank you for your understanding, Your Highness. Please rest assured, Your Highness. We will protect Your Highness and the others with our lives. Dugu Xian cupped his fists. General Dugu is too polite. Li Tai smiled and said softly. A trace of worry appeared between his brows. Li Tai of the past was indeed a person who only cared about his own enjoyment, but it was different now. As the commander-in-chief of this northern operation, he had the responsibility and obligation to ensure the safety of these people from the academy. Chapter 1837. This subordinate is the Bing Province Governor, Wang Liaoyuan. Greetings to Your Highness, Duke of Wei. The sun was setting in the west and the sky was about to turn dark. The southern gate of Taiyuan City opened. King Liaoyuan and his subordinates hurried out of the city. As for the county officials, he didn't even bother to inform them. At this moment, he saw a young man around 10 years old standing in front of the carriages. He had a calm expression and a noble aura. The soldiers beside him protected him tightly. In addition, Wang Liaoyuan had seen Li Tai a few times when he entered the court a few years ago. Thus, he directly walked up to Li Tai and bowed. Your Highness King Wei. The aides and subordinates of the provincial governor behind Wang Liaoyuan also bowed. With Wang Liaoyuan leading the way, they didn't have to search for Li Tai in the crowd. Everyone, there's no need to be so courteous. Li Tai raised his hands and smiled warmly at Wang Liaoyuan and the others. This king has come to Taiyuan City to carry out an important mission under the orders of my imperial father. These 1,000 imperial army soldiers will follow this king into the city. I hope that Provincial Governor Wang can make things convenient and cooperate with this king to complete the mission given by my imperial father. Hearing this, Wang Liaoyuan frowned. When Dugu Feiying entered the provincial governor's residence with the imperial army token, he told him that Li Tai was going to lead 1,000 imperial army soldiers into Taiyuan City. However, Dugu Feiying didn't have a real imperial edict. They were only following Li Er's verbal order. Letting an unfamiliar army into the city was a serious matter. As the provincial governor of Bing Province, Wang Liaoyuan had to personally go out and investigate. Otherwise, what if this army had other motives? At that time, he would really be dead. After seeing that the leader of this army was indeed Li Tai, Wang Liaoyuan's vigilance was lowered. This was because Li Tai couldn't possibly rebel. Even if he wanted to rebel, he couldn't have brought the imperial army with him. This was because the imperial army was under Li Er's direct command. Since that was the case, then Li Tai really did lead the army into the city under the emperor's orders. Your Highness is too polite. We will do our best to assist Your Highness in completing His Majesty's mission. After pondering for a moment, Wang Liaoyuan cupped his hands and said. At this moment, he thought of how the Wang clan's elites had entered and exited the city in the afternoon, searching for 2 people. He wondered if this matter had anything to do with Li Tai's arrival. Ha! Wang Yu greets Your Highness, Duke of Wei. Speak of the devil. Just as Wang Liaoyuan was thinking this, a burst of hearty laughter came from behind the officials of the provincial governor's office. Soon after, Wang Yu walked out with Princess Tang and clasped his hands at Li Tai. Of course, he was the only one who bowed. Princess Tang stood in front of Li Tai and looked at the little fatty with a smile. After Wang Yu bowed, she smiled faintly and said, Qinke, why didn't you tell me you were coming to Taiyuan? I could have sent someone to fetch you. Upon seeing Wang Yu and Princess Tang Li Tai's dignified expression instantly vanished, replaced by the docility of a junior in front of his elders. He first bowed to Wang Yu and said, "Uncle-in-law, there's no need to be so courteous." Then he replied to Princess Tang and "Grand-aunt, please forgive me. Tai only left Chang and on the spur of the moment. Besides, Tai didn't know that grand-aunt and uncle-in-law were in Taiyuan right now. Otherwise, I would have definitely sent someone to inform you." Princess Tang and An Li-er had an extremely good relationship. Even though Princess Tang was already married, Li-er would still send someone to Suizhou to deliver gifts to her and Wang Yu during festivals. As a result, Li Tai naturally did not dare to slight this grand-aunt of his. In terms of seniority, Princess Tang was truly his grand-aunt. Haha. We're all family, so why are you taking offense? When Renbiao got married a few days ago, your uncle-in-law and I just came to Taiyuan from Qizhou. You've been spoiled since you were young and have never traveled far. You must have suffered quite a bit along the way, right? Princess Tang smiled and stroked Li Tai's head out of habit. Speaking of which, when Li Tai was still young, Princess Tang had often stroked his head like this. Li Tai felt a wave of helplessness. He wanted to hide, but he was afraid that he would hurt this grand-aunt's heart. He could only stand there and let Princess Tang torment him. Seeing the two of them chatting about domestic trivialities, the others, especially Wang Liaoyuan and some of the people from the provincial governor's estate, instantly felt that their presence was unnecessary. Wang Liaoyuan couldn't help but muster up his courage and remind, "Has your highness arranged a place to stay in the city? If not, this official will immediately have someone tidy up a courtyard in the provincial governor's estate." Unexpectedly, before Li Tai could say anything, Princess Tang couldn't help but say to Wang Liaoyuan, "Since Qinke has come to Sourcepeak City, she naturally has to stay in the Wang clan. Could it be that the Wang clan was lacking a few residences? Or is it that the Wang clan's residence can't compare to your provincial governor's estate?" As soon as he said this, Wang Yu, who was standing to the side, couldn't help but have a strange expression. Just a few minutes ago, Princess Tang had clearly stated that she did not agree to Li Tai's group staying in the Wang clan. It had only been a short while, so why had she suddenly changed her mind? Although he thought this, Wang Yu did not step forward to undermine Princess Tang. Meanwhile, Wang Liaoyuan, who was standing in front of Li Tai, had an awkward expression at Princess Tang's words. He hastily said, "I wouldn't dare. I wouldn't dare." Even as the provincial governor of a province, he did not dare to provoke this woman in front of him. Li Tai and Dugu Xian secretly exchanged glances, then stepped forward to smooth things over. "Many thanks for Grand-aunt's good intentions, and many thanks for Provincial Governor Wang's good intentions. However, this lowly prince is planning to stay in the relay station in Sourcepeak City. This will make things more convenient, so I hope that Grand-aunt and Provincial Governor Wang will not take offense." Wang Yu, who had been silent all this time, couldn't help but inwardly sigh in relief. Wang Liaoyuan said, "Since your highness has made up your mind, this official will immediately have someone bring you to the relay station in the city." Princess Tang frowned, her expression faintly displeased. However, after a moment of hesitation, she finally nodded. Forget it. Qinke, you must be tired from the journey. Quickly enter the city and rest at the relay station. Once you've rested up tomorrow, I'll hold a banquet to welcome you." Li Tai inwardly sighed in relief and cupped his hands. "Many thanks, Grand-aunt." Thus, the group of people moved and walked into the city. As for the 1,000 Imperial Army soldiers led by Dugu Xian, they naturally followed along. "Halt! Who are you people?" As time passed, the setting sun gradually disappeared from the horizon, and the entire grassland was about to be plunged into darkness. A caravan was still resolutely heading north on the grassland. At this moment, they could faintly see the scattered white tents not far ahead. But at this moment, a group of people suddenly galloped in their direction and surrounded the caravan. The leader urged his horse forward and shouted. This person naturally spoke in Turkic, and this caravan was the Turkic caravan that Tang Jian and the others had disguised themselves as. We are traveling merchants of the grassland. May I ask which tribe this brave warrior belongs to? Tang Jian had already dismounted from his horse. He gave the man a grassland salute and asked instead of answering the question. People on the prairie liked to be called warriors because only the bravest and fiercest people were worthy of the prettiest girls. Seeing Tang Jian's good attitude, the man proudly puffed out his chest and snorted, "Humph! I am Abdang of the Blackwater tribe of Bayan. I am guarding this place on the orders of the chieftain. Are you spies sent by the Great Khan?" Bayan Blackwater tribe. Tang Jian's heart skipped a beat. The Bayan tribe could be said to be the direct line of the Tuli Khan's army, and the Bayan tribe could be said to be one of the strongest tribes in the grassland. At the beginning, the Bayan tribe had dozens of tribes and gradually developed into 7 tribes. They were mainly distributed in the Sumo River, present-day Songhua River, and Black River, present-day Heilongjiang River, regions. The Sumo River and Blackwater tribe were the strongest. Chapter 1838. You're the one who wants to see Little Khan? On the prairie, 1,000 feet away from Tuli Yiting, Abdang was walking towards Tang Jian and the others with a big bearded man. The big man was nearly 7 feet tall, with a stocky back and a bare waist. He was born tall and powerful. Coupled with his rough face, he was the typical tough man of the prairie. The bearded man, under Abdang's guidance, asked Tang Jian loudly when they got closer. "What are you doing?" Tang Jian's eyes flashed. He thought that this man should be the Bayan Blackwater tribe chief that Abdang mentioned just now. So, he replied calmly, "That's right. I'm the one who wants to see Little Khan." The man glanced at Tang Jian and said coldly, "Little Khan is busy with military affairs. How can you see him just because you want to? Just because of these few carriages of Central Plains goods behind you? Besides, who knows if you're a spy sent by Great Khan?" Obviously, before coming over, Abdang had already introduced the situation of Tang Jian and the others to this burly man. However, he was not as talkative as Abdang. As the chieftain of a tribe, he had many more problems to consider. Tang Jian seemed to be prepared for the bearded man's difficulties. He replied with a normal expression. "A few years ago, when I was doing business in the prairie, I was taken care of by Little Khan many times. Later, I settled down in Central Plains for a period of time. A few days ago, I heard that Little Khan was besieged by Great Khan's army, so I specially brought a few carriages of Central Plains treasures to Little Khan, hoping to help Little Khan survive this calamity. As for whether I'm a spy sent by Great Khan, dare I ask your excellency, now that Little Khan is besieged by Great Khan's army of hundreds of thousands, does your excellency think that Great Khan would take the extra step of sending a spy to Little Khan's camp?" Tang Jian's words were reasonable and his thoughts were clear. Especially the last sentence, it was simply an interrogation to the bearded man's soul. Indeed, in the current situation, to Xieli, who had a lot of soldiers and generals, as well as sufficient provisions, Xieli was at an overwhelming advantage. If this situation continued to develop, perhaps Tuli's destruction was only a matter of time. It seemed that Xieli indeed did not need to send spies to infiltrate Tuli's main camp. Although the bearded man was angry, he obviously understood that Tang Jian's analysis was reasonable. But even so, he did not intend to let Tang Jian go so easily. His face was calm as he continued to ask, "So, what do you think of this? Which tribe are you from? Also, you said that you were taken care of by the Little Khan when you were doing business in the grasslands. I have followed the Little Khan for almost 10 years. Why have I never heard of you?" Hearing this question, before Tang Jian could say anything, Yu Minghu and the others behind him felt a chill in their hearts. This was because everyone knew that the bearded man's question was very difficult to answer. If they were not careful, they would be completely exposed. Tang Jian, on the other hand, was still as calm as ever. He replied, I am from the Shi tribe, my name is Su Bujian. Moreover, I am just a nameless soldier. Because the little Khan is not like the great Khan who oppresses and collects taxes, we, the traveling merchants of the grasslands, are able to survive. You should be the chief of the Blackwater tribe, right? You're a big shot, so it's normal that you haven't seen a nobody like me. The Shi tribe was also a tribe under Tuli Khan. However, compared to Bai An's Blackwater tribe, the Shi tribe could only be considered a small tribe with very weak influence. Therefore, it was impossible for the bearded man to be familiar with everyone in the tribe. Chapter 1839. Su Bujian, a traveling merchant of the Shi tribe, greets the Khan. Under the lead of a soldier, Tang Jian entered this palace on the grassland. After entering, he didn't have time to admire the luxurious furnishings in the palace. In fact, there wasn't much to admire here. Although this palace could be said to be prosperous in the grassland where resources were scarce, it couldn't be compared to the past imperial palaces of the Central Plains. He directly walked up to the man sitting at the head of the table and performed a special greeting of the grassland people. He directly addressed Tuli as Khan instead of Little Khan, which was an invisible flattery to Tuli. This made Tuli's mood. No need to be so polite. An indifferent voice came from above. Tang Jian straightened his body and finally had time to size up Tuli sitting at the head of the table. He saw that Tuli had a broad face, a high nose, and a pair of eyes as sharp as an eagle's. However, there was also a hint of depth and wisdom in them. In addition, there was a half-inch long stubble on Tuli's chin. Because he had not taken care of it for a long time, the stubble grew chaotically like weed. This made his originally heroic and extraordinary face look somewhat decadent. Presumably, the recent situation on the grassland made Tuli feel powerless and desperate. Tang Jian thought to himself. In fact, he had met Tuli once before. That was when Xieli led hundreds of thousands of soldiers to Chang'an. Li Er led a group of officials out of the city and signed an alliance with Xieli. At that time, Tuli, as the second Khan of the Turkic Khans, was naturally present. However, at that time Tuli, who had led his troops into the heart of the Great Tang, was in high spirits. How could he be as lethargic as he was now? I heard from General and I sure that you can help us out of our current desperate situation. Is that true? At this moment, Tang Jian was sizing up Tuli. Tuli was also sizing up Tang Jian. The more he looked at Tang Jian, the stranger he felt. It was not that he recognized Tang Jian, but he felt that Tang Jian looked very strange. He could not tell what was strange about Tang Jian, but he felt that Tang Jian's appearance was somewhat awkward. After sizing him up for a while, Tuli got straight to the point and asked. Actually, the reason Tuli felt strange and awkward when he looked at Tang Jian was because Tang Jian was a Tang. Although this time he entered the prairie in disguise, his face and facial features still had the distinctive features of people from the Central Plains. Replying to Khan, there is indeed such a thing. I can help you escape from the Great Khan's encirclement. Tang Jian smiled and replied in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. Shi tribe's traveling merchant Su Bujian greets the Khan. Under the lead of a soldier, Tang Jian entered this palace on the grassland. After entering, he didn't have time to admire the luxurious furnishings in the palace. In fact, there wasn't much to admire here. Although this palace could be said to be prosperous in the grassland where resources were scarce, it couldn't be compared to the past imperial palaces of the Central Plains. He directly walked up to the man sitting at the head of the table and performed a special greeting of the grassland people. He directly addressed Tuli as Khan instead of Little Khan. Unknowingly, he was flattering Tuli, which made Tuli's mood very bad. No need for formalities. An indifferent voice came from above. Tang Jian stood up straight. Only now did he have time to size up Tuli, who was sitting at the head of the table. He saw that Tuli had a broad face, a high nose, and a pair of eyes as sharp as an eagle's, but they also revealed a bit of profundity and wisdom. In addition, there was a half-inch long stubble on Tuli's chin. Chapter 1840. Your Majesty, Minister Xiao has returned to the city with the money from the fundraising event. Chang and City, Taiji Palace, Suite Du Hall. The sky was getting dark. Li Er, who had just finished reading the memorials, was about to head to the back of the palace for dinner when Zhao Song walked in. Oh? The fundraising event in Lantian County has ended? How much money was raised? Li Er's eyes lit up when he heard that. He asked with great interest. He hadn't forgotten about his bet with Xiao Yu. Zhao Song smiled and replied, Your Majesty, the fundraising event ended at 4:45. As for how much money was raised, I don't know. But from the rumors, it should be quite a lot. Li Er nodded and chuckled. Ha ha. Then we'll talk about it when Minister Xiao enters the palace. He then stood up from the dragon couch and walked towards the door. Since Xiao Yu hadn't arrived yet, he had to go and eat dinner. Li Er wasn't too worried about the bet. Firstly, he believed in Li Zixuan's ability to create miracles. Even if he couldn't raise 250,000 strings of cash, Li Zixuan would definitely have other tricks up his sleeve. Secondly, even if Li Zixuan couldn't do it, Li Er had other ways to raise 250,000 strings of cash. The Bureau of Commerce in the Guangdong region would send the tax revenue to the imperial court every 3 months. He could have Li Xiaogong hand over the tax revenue to the national treasury a month in advance. This wasn't a small sum of money and could completely make up for the deficit from the fundraising event. Actually, Li Er had another trick up his sleeve, which was to have the Yanhuang Bank print money like crazy. Tang Yuan had become popular in all 300 states of the Great Tang and had gradually replaced copper coins. In times of war, Li Er could have the Yanhuang Bank print more Tang Yuan to expand and equip the army. However, when Li Zixuan established the Yanhuang Bank, he had solemnly said that the amount of money that the Yanhuang Bank printed every year had to be determined by the Great Tang's annual gross domestic product. Unauthorized printing of Tang Yuan would not only destroy the credit system of Tang Yuan, it would also destroy the foundation of the Great Tang. Once this move was implemented, the Great Tang Dynasty would not be far from destruction. As intelligent as Li Er was, it was impossible for him not to know that Li Zixuan's words made sense. Now that the Great Tang was fighting the Turkic Khaganate, although it was difficult, it was not completely impossible. Therefore, Li Er felt that it was not yet time to use the money printing machine, that was the Yanhuang Bank. In his view, the Yanhuang Bank and Tang Yuan would be of great use to the future prosperity of the Great Tang. They must not be destroyed so easily. Arriving at Empress Jiangxuan's residence, Li Er immediately ordered the palace maids and eunuchs to serve the dishes. Halfway through the dinner, Zhao Song hurriedly ran over and said, Your Majesty, Minister Xiao requests an audience. He came rather quickly. Bring him to the Ganlu Palace, I will be there in a while. Hearing this, Li Er smiled and said to Zhao Song, Yes. Zhao Song received the order and left. At this moment, Li Er looked at Empress Jiangxun and sighed. Sigh, I wanted to have a good meal with Maid Guanyin, but it seems like I won't be able to. Empress Jiangxun smiled and said, Your Majesty, go quickly. For Minister Xiao to enter the palace at this time, it must be something important. Oh, it seems like Lantian County is holding a donation gathering today. I believe that Minister Xiao must be here for this. Li Er took advantage of the gap between their conversation to eat 2 more mouthfuls of food. Then, he stood up and praised, Ha ha! My Empress is indeed intelligent. This Xiao Yu is most likely here for the donation gathering. All right, Maid Guanyin, take your time to eat. I will be going to the front hall. Empress Zhongsun nodded. Li Er stood up and headed in the direction of Taiji Palace. Speaking of which, it wasn't easy for him to be the emperor, especially during this period when the great Tang was preparing for the war with the Turkic Khaganate. There were many times when he couldn't even have a proper meal. It was no wonder that Li Er would become a sage in history. Attitude determined everything. This old subject greets your majesty. Arriving at the Ganlu Palace, Xiao Yu, who had been waiting for a while, quickly bowed and greeted. Minister Xiao, you may dispense with the formalities. Li Er waved at Xiao Yu as he walked toward the dragon couch. Since he had already guessed Xiao Yu's intention for entering the palace, Li Er sat on the dragon couch and looked at Xiao Yu. He didn't keep him in suspense and directly asked, "How is it, Minister Xiao? Has the money raised from this donation gathering been enough to fund an army of 150,000 soldiers?" Xiao Yu's eyes narrowed as he clasped his hands at Li Er and sternly said, "This donation gathering has raised a total of 428,500 strings of cash, far surpassing this old subject's estimate. Your Majesty has won the bet, so this old subject congratulates your Majesty." "What? 428,500 strings of cash?" Even though Li Er had already mentally prepared himself, he still couldn't help but be taken aback by such a massive number from Xiao Yu's mouth. Just 15 minutes ago, he had been considering what to do if the money raised from this donation gathering wasn't enough, but now happiness had come a little too suddenly. Truly so. In this donation gathering, not only did many merchants donate generously to the country, there were also many people this old subject didn't expect to participate. Speaking of this, Xiao Yu took out a book from his bosom and held it up with both hands. He said, "This old official has brought back the 428,500 strings of coins from the fundraising event and handed it over to the officials of the Ministry of Revenue to be counted and added to the national treasury. This is the detailed account of the fundraising event. Your Majesty, please take a look." "Good. My dear subject, you've worked hard this time." Li Er's eyes lit up as he sighed with emotion. Without his instructions, Zhao Song took the account book from Xiao Yu's hands and handed it over to Li Er. Li Er reached out to take the account book and began flipping through it, ignoring Xiao Yu in the hall. Due to the lack of time, the account book wasn't arranged according to the amount of donations. It was completely based on the order of the people who had appeared at the donation gathering. Li Er recognized many of the people at the front of the list, such as Li Zixuan, Lin Wenyuan of the Flaming Yellow Chamber of Commerce, and the world's righteous merchant Feng Zhihua, whom he had personally conferred the title of World's Righteous Merchant. These people had all donated a considerable amount, with Li Zixuan taking the lead. Not only had he donated 30,000 strings of cash, but his Warm Tang Foundation had also donated 20,000 strings of cash. Altogether, they had contributed 50,000 strings of cash to the imperial court. Li Er couldn't help but be moved by this. He thought to himself, Li Zixuan might be a playboy most of the time, but when it comes to national interests and foreign wars, he's more attentive than anyone else. Li Er thought this way not only because Li Zixuan had started the donation gathering and contributed 50,000 strings of cash to the imperial court, but also because Li Zixuan had offered to forge new high-quality equipment for the expanded Black Armored Army. After that, Li Er had done some calculations in private. The new equipment worn by the 5,000 Black Armored Army from head to toe, from man to horse, would definitely be worth no less than 100,000 strings of cash. There weren't many people in the Great Tang who could fork out such a large sum. Even if there were people who could, they wouldn't offer to gift money like Li Zixuan had done. This was because not only would this money not benefit him, it might even arouse the suspicions of the emperor. Li Er knew that Li Zixuan, who had always been shrewd, would do such a foolish thing because of his sincerity towards the Great Tang. He wanted the Great Tang to prosper, and he didn't want the Great Tang to fall into the hands of foreign races. It was precisely because of this that Li Er had always regarded Li Zixuan in a different light and promoted Li Zixuan as an exception. Furthermore, whenever Li Zixuan made a mistake, Li Er would do his best to lighten the punishment on Li Zixuan. It was also because of Li Zixuan's sincerity that Li Er was willing to place his two favorite sons by Li Zixuan's side to learn and grow. Treasure House. What's the background of this shop? They can actually donate 30,000 strings of cash? Also, this name sounds familiar. Li Er skimmed through the list and saw that other than Li Zixuan, there was someone else who had donated 30,000 strings of cash. He couldn't help but take a second look at the list. Then, he frowned and muttered in confusion. Xiao Yu smiled and cupped his hands. Your Majesty, this treasure house is the property left behind by Wang Renbiao, the governor of Qizhou. As for Li Jingqiu, who donated after him, she is Wang Renbiao's new wife. The couple donated a total of 32,000 strings of cash. Oh? It's Wang Renbiao? Hearing this, Li Er was suddenly enlightened. I heard that he was getting married a few days ago. I didn't expect that he would come with his new wife to donate money right after he got married. Wang Yu gave birth to a good son and a good daughter-in-law. Then, Li Er temporarily put aside Wang Renbiao's matter and continued to read. The more he read, the more surprised he became. Slowly, he finally understood why Xiao Yu had told him that many unexpected people have come to this fundraising event. Qingji Winery? Isn't that the winery of Qing Jije's family? He also donated 5,000 strings of cash? Qin Ji Clothing Shop? This is Shu Bao's shop. Baochang Pawn Shop? This is Jingda's pawn shop. Zhangsun Wuji, Fang Xianling, Chu Suiliang, Kong Yingda. All the civil and military officials seemed to have secretly participated in the fundraising event. Unlike other emperors, Li Er had subdued a large group of civil and military officials in the process of conquering the world. These people had worked with Li Er for so many years and had a very good relationship with him. Li Er knew most of the private lives of his officials like the back of his hand. Therefore, although Qing Yaojin, Qin Qiong, and the others had participated in the fundraising event in the name of their own shops, most of them were still recognized by Li Er at a glance. Seeing that his officials were so supportive of him, Li Er couldn't help but feel touched. However, when he saw the next name, he couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. Wei's Winery, isn't this Wei Zheng's winery? No, didn't this winery close 2 years ago? Donation of 10 strings of cash? When he saw the words Wei's Winery, Li Er was a little surprised. However, when he saw the donation of 10 strings of cash, he almost vomited blood. This was because the people before him had donated tens of thousands of strings of cash. When it was Wei Zheng's turn, he only donated 10 strings of cash. This contrast was too big. Cough cough. Xuanqing's family's resources are limited. Your Majesty, please forgive us. Seeing this, Xiao Yu coughed dryly and pleaded for Wei Zheng in a low voice. Li Er secretly rolled his eyes and couldn't be bothered to say anything. Lantian County's government donated 10,000 strings of cash? What's going on? Li Er read 10 lines at a glance and quickly flipped to the last page of the account book. Suddenly, his eyes focused on a line in the middle of the last page of the account book, and he exclaimed in surprise. Chapter 1841. Lantian County was only a middle-sized county. Among the 1,500-plus counties in the Great Tang, Lantian County was definitely not one of the wealthiest counties. Of course, this was the Lantian County of the past. The current Lantian County was filled with shops and pavilions. The crisscrossing bluestone streets had all been changed to smooth cement road. According to rumors, the Lantian County Yamen had the intention to expand Lantian County. The entire Lantian County had undergone huge changes in less than a year. Li Er was naturally aware of these changes, But he did not know that the Lantian County Yamen had the ability to donate 10,000 strings of cash to the imperial court. 10,000 strings of cash. What kind of concept was this to a county yamen? In the entire Great Tang, the number of counties that had an annual tax income of more than 10,000 strings of cash could be counted on one hand. For example, Chang'an County and Wanyan County. These two counties had the advantage of being the capital of Chang'an, and the taxes collected every year were the highest in the entire Great Tang, exceeding 20,000 strings of cash. But how could a middle-sized county like Lantian County casually donate 10,000 strings of cash? Where did they get so much money? More importantly, the entire Lantian County was Li Zishuan's fief. Under such circumstances, shouldn't the taxes collected by the Lantian County Yamen all go to Li Zishuan's pocket? Why did the Lantian County magistrate dare to donate 10,000 strings of cash to the imperial court on his own initiative? Could it be that this was instructed by Li Zishuan? The moment he saw the donation information on the Lantian County Yamen in the account book, many questions surfaced in Li Er's mind. In this hall, the only person who could answer his questions was Xiao Yu, who had been to the donation event. In fact, when Xiao Yu heard that county magistrate he had donated 10,000 strings of cash on behalf of the Lantian County Yamen in the afternoon, he was also in a daze. On the way back to Chang'an from Lantian County, Xiao Yu had also been thinking about some questions regarding Lantian County. After cupping his hands, he said, "Your Majesty, ever since Lantian County became the fief of Marquis Yong, the officials of the Lantian County Yamen have begun to develop businesses in the city according to Marquis Yong An's wishes. For this reason, at the beginning of this year, the Lantian County Yamen established a Department of Commerce to ensure that merchants receive fair treatment in Lantian County and to ensure that they can do business normally. However, the Department of Commerce increased the tax rate of Lantian County by 5 times. But even so, there are still merchants from all over coming to Lantian County to do business. This is because in Lantian County, merchants are the same as commoners and craftsmen. They are all commoners and there is no distinction between them. Cases regarding merchants will be handled by the Department of Commerce. Furthermore, the children of merchants can enter official schools in Lantian County and can also be admitted to Yanwang College in the future. As a result, shops and restaurants in Lantian County sprang up like bamboo shoots after a spring rain. The business in the city is also flourishing day by day. In addition, the Department of Commerce increased the tax rate by 5 times. As a result, the monthly tax revenue of Lantian County is more than 10 times higher than before. This old subject heard from County Magistrate He of Lantian County that Marquis Yong did not take a single cent of the tax collected by the Lantian County Yamen and left it all in the Yamen. He ordered County Magistrate He and the others to use this money to improve the livelihood of the people in the county. This is called taking from the people and using for the people. Chapter 1842. In truth, before the Song Dynasty, the nomads of China basically did not have any iron smelting skills. The Xiongnu, Xianbei, Rouran, and the Turks of the Sui and Tang dynasties were all like this. They usually obtained their iron from 2 sources. One was through plundering the settled tribes, such as the people of the Central Plains. The second source was through secret transactions with special merchants, somewhat similar to modern weapons smuggling. By the Song Dynasty, the northern nomads were unprecedentedly powerful. The Khitans, Jin, and Xixia could no longer be considered nomads. They had their own iron smelting skills, and Xixia had even developed the more advanced cold forging technology of the time. Cold forged armor was once the strongest armor of the time. At that time, the Chinese Empire's control over iron was also much more lax, which was why cooking was so popular. As for the Mongols after the Song Dynasty, as the peak of nomads, they obtained iron through trade. At that time, there were many countries that could trade with the Mongols, so the Chinese Empire's unilateral control over the export of iron was meaningless. However, the Mongols were not good at smelting iron, but this did not stop them from plundering all sorts of people who knew how to smelt iron. Thus, the Mongols were able to grow stronger and control the Central Plains. Dugu Xian deduced that the assassin was not from the Turks, but from the Central Plains based on the needle-shaped weapon in his hand. This deduction was completely reasonable. In ancient times, when technology was not mature, it was not as easy to make a needle as it was in the modern era. Moreover, the needle in Dugu Xian's hand was not ordinary iron, but special steel. It was undoubtedly more difficult to make than the embroidery needles that the common people used. Based on this, one could basically conclude that the person who made this weapon was from the Central Plains. The situation in Taiyuan City is not as simple as you think it is. Dugu Xian stood with his hands clasped behind his back. He glanced at his younger brother and sighed. Zhu Xieqing and Kong Chang'an are just two outsiders, while the Wang family has been operating in Taiyuan City for many years. Whether it is on the surface or in the dark, they are abnormally powerful. However, these two were actually able to escape the Wang family's pursuit in Taiyuan City. This is enough to show that the two of them are not alone in Taiyuan City. There must be other forces helping them. Big brother, who is this faction you speak of? Who dares to oppose the Wang family and His Majesty? Dugu Feiying asked in confusion. Dugu Xian rolled his eyes. If he knew who the hidden force was, he would have led his troops to capture them long ago. Where would he find the time to chat with Dugu Feiying? Dugu Feiying immediately regretted his question. After a moment of awkward silence, Dugu Feiying straightened his face and asked again, Big brother, when we were outside the city gates in the afternoon, why did you suggest that His Highness stay at the post house and not at the Wang family? Do you not trust Governor Wang? But even if you don't trust Governor Wang, you have to trust Princess Royal, right? She wouldn't harm your highness, would she? If he could, Dugu Xian really wanted to say, My silly little brother, you're too young. It's not that I don't trust Provincial Governor Wang or the Grand Princess. It's just that the Wang clan is a 1,000-year-old clan with many assets and descendants. Even though Provincial Governor Wang is the current head of the Wang clan, it's impossible for everyone in the clan to be of one mind. Chapter 1843. Xieli's Tyranny, Heaven's Wrath and People's Resentment. At the end of July, there will be frost in midsummer on the grasslands. Inside the Tuli Yadong, Tang Jian guided Tuli Khan according to Li Er's plan. He guided Tuli Khan to unite with those tribes on the prairie who originally wanted to rebel against Xieli but did not dare to rebel because of Xieli's great power. As for how to persuade those tribes to cooperate with Tuli, the biggest trump card was the prophecy about the midsummer frost on the prairie at the end of the 7th month. After Tang Jian finished speaking, the other two people in the room were all stunned. And Shurtua and Tuli looked at Tang Jian as if they were looking at a madman. It was said that the weather was unpredictable. Ordinary people could not predict whether it would be sunny or rainy a few days later. Tang Jian actually told them that there would be an abnormal weather phenomenon of midsummer frost at the end of July. How could they believe this? There are only a few days left until August, and the sun has been shining brightly on the grasslands for the past few days. You said that there would be midsummer frost on the grasslands at the end of July. Do you think anyone will believe your words? Without waiting for Tuli Khan to speak, and Shurtua, who was standing beside Tang Jian, could not help but sneer. When he learned that Tang Jian did not bring a large number of troops to the grasslands this time, and Shurtua had already lost hope that Tang Jian could help them escape. Now that he heard from Tang Jian's mouth that there would be midsummer frost on the grasslands at the end of July, and Shurtua completely despaired of Tang Jian. He was not afraid of offending Tang Jian and the great Tang, so his words were not polite at all. Tuli Khan's gaze was faint, but he did not speak. However, his silence at this time was basically indulgence or acquiescence. Obviously, his thoughts were the same as Ni Shirtua's, but it was inconvenient for him to say it. Tang Jian also understood that it was simply impossible for him to convince Tuli and Ni Shirtua that the prairie would have frost in midsummer with just a few words. Speaking of which, when he first heard this language from Li Er's mouth, his first reaction was the same as Tuli and Ni Shirtua's. He thought it was simply absurd. But Li Er had assured him with certainty that before the end of July or August, there would definitely be abnormal weather phenomena of midsummer frost on the prairie. At that time, old Li nearly swore an oath. Relying on his many years of friendship with Li Er, as well as his understanding of Li Er's character, Tang Jian chose to believe in this absurd prophecy. He resolutely embarked on the long road to the grassland, and it was very likely to be a road of no return. Xieli's tyranny, heaven's anger and people's resentment, midsummer frost on the grasslands at the end of July. Inside the Tuli Yadong, Tang Jian guided Tuli Khan according to Li Er's plan. He guided Tuli Khan to unite with those tribes on the prairie who originally wanted to rebel against Xieli but did not dare to rebel because of Xieli's great power. As for how to persuade those tribes to cooperate with Tuli, the biggest trump card was the prophecy about the midsummer frost on the prairie at the end of the 7th month. After Tang Jian finished speaking, except for him, the remaining 2 people in the room were all stunned. Ni Shirtua and Tuli both looked at Tang Jian as if they were looking at a madman. It was said that the weather was unpredictable. Ordinary people could not predict whether it would be sunny or rainy a few days later. Tang Jian actually told them that there would be an abnormal weather phenomenon of midsummer frost on the grasslands at the end of July. How could they believe this? There are only a few days left until August, and the sun has been shining brightly on the grasslands for the past few days. Yet, you say that midsummer frost will fall on the grasslands at the end of July? Do you think anyone will believe your words? Without waiting for Tuli Khan to speak, Ni Shirtua, who was standing next to Tang Jian, could not help but sneer. When he learned that Tang Jian did not bring a large number of troops to the grasslands this time, Ni Shirtua had already lost hope that Tang Jian could help them get out of trouble. Now, hearing from Tang Jian's mouth that midsummer frost would fall on the grasslands at the end of July, Ni Shirtua completely despaired of Tang Jian. He was no longer afraid of offending Tang Jian and the great Tang, so his words were not polite at all. Tuli Khan's gaze was faint, but he did not speak. However, his silence at this time was basically indulgence or acquiescence. Obviously, his thoughts were the same as Ni Shirtua's, but it was inconvenient for him to say it out loud. Tang Jian also understood that it was impossible for him to make Tuli and Ni Shirtua believe that midsummer frost would fall on the grasslands with just a few words. Speaking of which, when he first heard this from Li Er, his first reaction was the same as Tuli and Ni Shirtua's, that it was simply absurd. However, Li Er had assured him that before the end of July and August, there would definitely be an abnormal phenomenon of midsummer frost on the grasslands. At that time, Old Li had almost directly sworn a poisonous oath. Relying on his many years of friendship with Li Er, as well as his understanding of Li Er's character, Tang Jian chose to believe in this absurd prophecy. He resolutely embarked on the long road to the grassland, and it was very likely to be a road of no return. Xieli's tyranny, the wrath of heaven and the resentment of men. At the end of July, midsummer frost will fall on the grasslands. Inside the Tuli Yadong, Tang Jian guided Tuli Khan according to Li Er's plan. He guided Tuli Khan to unite with those tribes on the prairie who originally wanted to rebel against Xieli but did not dare to rebel because of Xieli's great power. As for how to persuade those tribes to cooperate with Tuli, the biggest trump card was the prophecy about the midsummer frost on the prairie at the end of the 7th month. After Tang Jian finished speaking, except for him, the remaining two people in the room were all stunned. And I Shurtua and Tuli both looked at Tang Jian as if they were looking at a madman. It was said that the weather was unpredictable. Ordinary people would not be able to predict whether it would be sunny or rainy a few days later. Tang Jian actually told them that there would be an abnormal phenomenon of midsummer frost at the end of July. How could they believe this? There are only a few days left until August, and the sun has been shining brightly on the grasslands for the past few days. Yet you say that midsummer frost will fall on the grasslands at the end of July? Do you think anyone will believe your words? Without waiting for Tuli Khan to speak, and I Shurtua, who was standing beside Tang Jian, could not help but sneer. When he learned that Tang Jian did not bring a large number of troops to the grasslands this time, and I Shurtua had already lost hope that Tang Jian could help them escape. Now that he heard from Tang Jian's mouth that midsummer frost would fall on the grasslands at the end of July, and I Shurtua completely despaired of Tang Jian. He was no longer afraid of offending Tang Jian and the great Tang, so his words were not polite at all. Tuli Khan's gaze was faint, but he did not speak. However, his silence at this time was basically equivalent to connivance or acquiescence. Obviously, his thoughts were the same as N.I. Shurtua's, but it was inconvenient for him to say it out loud. Tang Jian also understood that it was impossible to make Tuli and N.I. Shurtua believe that midsummer frost would fall on the grasslands with just a few words from him. Speaking of which, when he first heard this from Li Er, his first reaction was the same as Tuli and N.I. Shurtua's. He thought it was simply absurd. However, Li Er had assured him that before the end of July and August, there would definitely be an abnormal phenomenon of midsummer frost falling on the grasslands. At that time, Old Li had almost directly made a vow. Relying on his many years of friendship with Li Er and his understanding of Li Er's character, Tang Jian chose to believe in this absurd prophecy and resolutely embarked on the long road to the grasslands. Moreover, it was very likely to be a road of no return. Xieli's tyranny, the wrath of heaven and the resentment of men. At the end of July, midsummer frost will fall on the grasslands. Inside the Tuli Yadong, Tang Jian guided Tuli Khan according to Li Er's plan. He guided him to unite with those tribes on the prairie who originally wanted to rebel against Xieli but did not dare to rebel because of Xieli's great power. As for how to persuade those tribes to cooperate with Tuli, the biggest trump card was the prophecy about the midsummer frost on the prairie at the end of the 7th month. After Tang Jian finished speaking, except for him, the remaining two people in the room were all stunned. And I Shurtua and Tuli both looked at Tang Jian as if they were looking at a madman. It was said that the weather was unpredictable. Ordinary people could not predict whether it would be sunny or rainy a few days later. Tang Jian actually told them that there would be an abnormal phenomenon of midsummer frost falling on the grasslands at the end of July. How could they believe this? There are only a few days left until August, and the sun has been shining brightly on the grasslands for the past few days. Yet, you say that midsummer frost will fall on the grasslands at the end of July? Do you think anyone will believe your words? Without waiting for Tuli Khan to speak, and I Shurtua, who was standing beside Tang Jian, could not help but sneer. When he learned that Tang Jian did not bring a large number of troops to the grasslands this time, and I Shurtua had already lost hope that Tang Jian could help them get out of trouble. Now that he heard from Tang Jian's mouth that midsummer frost would fall on the grasslands at the end of July, and I Shurtua completely despaired of Tang Jian. He was no longer afraid of offending Tang Jian and the great Tang, so his words were not polite at all. Tuli Khan's gaze was faint, but he did not speak. But at this time, silence was basically indulgence or acquiescence. Obviously, his thoughts were the same as N.I. Shurtua's, but it was inconvenient for him to say it. Tang Jian also understood that it was impossible for him to make Tuli and N.I. Shurtua believe that midsummer frost would fall on the grasslands with just a few words. Speaking of which, when he first heard this from Lier, his first reaction was the same as Tuli and Ni Sherduaz, that it was simply absurd. But Lier had assured him that before the end of July and August, there would definitely be an abnormal phenomenon of midsummer frost on the grasslands. At that time, Old Li had almost directly sworn a poisonous oath. Relying on his many years of friendship with Lier and his understanding of Lier's character, Tang Jian chose to believe this absurd prophecy and resolutely embarked on the long road to the grasslands, and it was very likely to be a road of no return. Xieli's tyranny, heaven's wrath and people's resentment, at the end of July, midsummer frost will fall on the grasslands. Inside the Tuli Yadong, Tang Jian guided Tuli Khan according to Lier's plan. He guided Tuli Khan to unite with those tribes on the prairie who originally wanted to rebel against Xieli but did not dare to rebel because of Xieli's great power. As for how to persuade those tribes to cooperate with Tuli, the biggest trump card was the prophecy about the midsummer frost on the prairie at the end of the 7th month. After Tang Jian finished speaking, except for him, the remaining 2 people in the room were all stunned. Ni Sherduo and Tuli both looked at Tang Jian as if they were looking at a madman. It was said that the weather was unpredictable. Ordinary people would not be able to predict whether it would be sunny or rainy a few days later. Tang Jian actually told them that there would be an abnormal phenomenon of midsummer frost at the end of July. How could they believe this? There are only a few days left until August, and the sun has been shining brightly on the grasslands for the past few days. Yet you say that midsummer frost will fall on the grasslands at the end of July? Do you think anyone will believe your words? Without waiting for Tuli Khan to speak, Ni Sherduo, who was standing beside Tang Jian, could not help but sneer. When he learned that Tang Jian did not bring a large number of troops to the grasslands this time, Ni Sherduo had already lost hope that Tang Jian could help them escape. Now that he heard from Tang Jian's mouth that midsummer frost would fall on the grasslands at the end of July, Ni Sherduo completely despaired of Tang Jian. He was no longer afraid of offending Tang Jian and the great Tang, so his words were not polite at all. Tuli Khan's gaze was faint, but he did not speak. However, his silence at this time was equivalent to connivance or acquiescence. Obviously, his thoughts were the same as Ni Sherduo's, but it was inconvenient for him to say it. Tang Jian also understood that it was impossible for him to make Tuli and Ni Sherduo believe that midsummer frost would fall on the grasslands with just a few words. Speaking of which, when he first heard this from Lier, his first reaction was the same as Tuli and Ni Sherduo's, that it was simply absurd. However, Lier had assured him that before the end of July and August, there would definitely be an abnormal phenomenon of midsummer frost on the grasslands. At that time, Old Li had almost directly sworn a poisonous oath. Relying on his many years of friendship with Lier, as well as his understanding of Lier's character, Tang Jian chose to believe in this absurd prophecy. He resolutely embarked on the long road to the grassland, and it was very likely to be a road of no return. Xieli's tyranny, the wrath of heaven and the resentment of men. At the end of July, midsummer frost will fall on the grasslands. In the Tuli Yadong, Tang Jian guided Tuli Khan according to the plan that Lier had previously formulated. He had him unite with the tribes on the grasslands who originally wanted to resist Xieli but did not dare to because of Xieli's power. As for how to persuade those tribes to cooperate with Tuli, the biggest trump card was the prophecy of midsummer frost on the grasslands at the end of July. After Tang Jian finished speaking, except for him, the remaining 2 people in the room were all stunned. Ni Sherduo and Tuli both looked at Tang Jian as if they were looking at a madman. It was said that the weather was unpredictable. Ordinary people would not be able to predict whether it would be sunny or rainy a few days later. Tang Jian actually told them that there would be an abnormal phenomenon of midsummer frost at the end of July. How could they believe this? There are only a few days left until August, and the sun has been shining brightly on the grasslands for the past few days. Yet you say that midsummer frost will fall on the grasslands at the end of July? Do you think anyone will believe your words? Without waiting for Tuli Khan to speak, Anai Shirtuo, who was standing beside Tang Jian, could not help but sneer. When he learned that Tang Jian did not bring a large number of troops to the grasslands this time, Anai Shirtuo had already lost hope that Tang Jian could help them escape. Now that he heard from Tang Jian's mouth that midsummer frost would fall on the grasslands at the end of July, Anai Shirtuo completely despaired of Tang Jian. He was no longer afraid of offending Tang Jian and the great Tang, so his words were not polite at all. Tuli Khan's gaze was faint, but he did not speak. However, his silence at this time was basically equivalent to connivance or acquiescence. Obviously, his thoughts were the same as Anai Shirtuo's, but it was inconvenient for him to say it out loud. Tang Jian also understood that it was impossible to make Tuli and Anai Shirtuo believe that midsummer frost would fall on the grasslands with just a few words from him. Speaking of which, when he first heard this from Li Er, his first reaction was the same as Tuli and Anai Shirtuo's, that it was simply absurd. However, Li Er had assured him that there would definitely be an abnormal phenomenon of midsummer frost on the grasslands before the end of July and August. At that time, Old Li had almost directly made a vow. Relying on his many years of friendship with Li Er and his understanding of Li Er's character, Tang Jian chose to believe this absurd prophecy and resolutely embarked on the long road to the grasslands. Moreover, it was very likely to be a road of no return. Chapter 1844. Was the Turks at this time superstitious? Of course, they were superstitious, and in this aspect, the Turks were not inferior to the people of the Central Plains. In modern times, many people thought that the Turks believed in Islam, but that was not the case. In China's history, the Turks during the Sui and Tang dynasties were influenced by Buddhism, Manichaeism, and Nestorianism, but most of the tribes actually practiced shamanism. Those who believed in shamanism were foreign Turks, not China's. The Turks claimed to be the descendants of the Turk. In the 10th century, when they migrated west from Central Asia, they met the Arabs who believed in shamanism. Shamanism had an unprecedented impact on them. Almost all the Turks who claimed to be the descendants of the Turks converted to the new religion, and played a major role in the history of shamanism. From then on, their religion always maintained the characteristics of shamanism in the border areas. Simple martial arts, using creeds as war cries, seeing doctrines as mobilization orders, taking the territory of shamanism as their responsibility, filled with the fiery, straightforward, and confident appearance of the first generation of shamanism. But in China's history, it was impossible for the Turks to believe in shamanism, because shamanism was introduced into China around the 10th century. The Han Dynasty at the same time was the Northern Song Dynasty. This was common knowledge in history. At this time, the Turks mainly believed in shamanism. Shamanism had a long history, originating from the primitive fishing and hunting era. Before Genghis Khan established the Mongol Khanate, the dominant religion among the nomads in the northern grassland was shamanism. According to the records in the secret history of the Mongols, the shaman at that time made Talyui drink the cursed water and die in place of his elder brother Ajadai. As the strongest warrior in the Grassland Empire, who controlled 80% of the Mongol army, Talyui did not resist at all. It could be seen the position of shamanism at that time. According to the teachings of shamanism, Tungri was the eternal highest god. In the thinking of the grassland people, the supreme power in the world was bestowed by the eternal highest god, Tungri. Therefore, in the grassland, from the Khan to the commoners, no one did not believe in Tungri, and no one did not hope to obtain Tungri's protection. If the abnormal weather phenomenon of midsummer frost was given a special meaning of longevity, heaven's dissatisfaction with the prairie's current ruler, it was believed that even Xieli, who had millions of control warriors, would also feel a huge headache. Tang Jian's stratagem seemed absurd, but after careful consideration, they realized that this stratagem was indeed feasible. Just as he said, if the midsummer frost fell and the stratagem succeeded, Tuli's troops would be able to escape from Xieli's siege. If the stratagem failed, Tuli would not suffer too much loss, because they were already trapped in a desperate situation. The situation could not possibly get any worse. Haha. Since that is the case, then this Khan can rest assured. Inside Tusk, Tuli Khan chuckled. Then, with a concerned expression, he said, Emissary, you must be tired from the journey. This Khan will have someone bring you to the tent to rest. Tang Jian saw that he had said what he needed to say, so he cupped his hands and said, Thank you, Khan. Tuli Khan nodded and shouted towards the outside. Not long after, 2 maidservants came in and led the 2 maidservants into the hall. Tang Jian exited the hall. Khan, are we really going to do as Tang Jian said? After Tang Jian left, and I Shuchuo could not help but ask. Tuli Khan frowned and did not speak. After a moment of silence, he said, Now we are like caged beasts. If we don't try, how can we escape? From tomorrow onwards, you will arrange for people to spread the news among the tribes about Xieli's misconduct. Longevity Heaven is furious, and frost will fall at the end of July. Remember to arrange for some clever people, don't let the cat out of the bag. Seeing that Tuli had made up his mind, and I Shuchuo could not persuade him any more. He could only nod and say, and I Shuchuo obeys. After hesitating for a moment, he could not help but say, Khan, the Tangs are cunning. I think we can't fully believe Tang Jian's words. Tuli nodded thoughtfully. After a moment, he ordered, Send someone to watch Tang Jian and his followers. Without this Khan's permission, they can't leave Tusk. No matter what, this person is still a duke of the Tang Empire. With him in our hands, he may be of some use in the future. And I Shuchuo's eyes lit up. He immediately understood and said, Don't worry, Khan. I will definitely send someone to keep a close eye on Tang Jian. Your Majesty, why are you so happy? Did you encounter some good news? In the backyard of the palace, Empress Zhongsun was reading a book in boredom in her bedroom. She saw Li Er humming a tune and walking in from outside in high spirits. She could not help but put down the book in her hand and ask Li Er with a smile. In this boudoir, she and Li Er had always treated each other as husband and wife. Naturally, they did not need to greet each other like outside. Haha! Good news! Great news! Li Er laughed and walked quickly to Empress Zhongsun. He sat on the couch and reached out to hug the beauty beside him. Chapter 1845. What? The Lu family of Fanyang and the Li family of Zhao County are also participating in the donation gathering? In the bedchamber, Empress Zhongsuan's exclamation instantly attracted Li Er's attention. He couldn't help but exclaim. Earlier, when he and Xiao Yu were in the Sweet Dew Hall, Li Er saw that the Lantian County government had donated 10,000 strings of cash. He took the opportunity to discuss with Xiao Yu the way to get rich of Lantian County. Then, he went directly to the harem. As for the last few lines of the account book, he didn't look carefully, so he didn't know that Lu Qingqing and Li Jingxian were participating in the donation gathering. Hearing Li Er's question, Empress Zhongsun pointed at the last 2 lines of the account book and said, Yes. This account book says that the Lu family and the Li family of Zhao County each donated 30,000 strings of cash. It's really strange. Didn't these aristocratic families all have their noses in the air before? Why are they so kind now, donating so much money to the court? At the end, Empress Zhongsun couldn't help but sigh. Li Er followed the voice and saw that the last 2 lines of the account book said, The Lu family of Fanyang donated 30,000 strings of cash. The Li family of Zhao County donated 30,000 strings of cash. These people are just fence-sitters. They will naturally stand on whichever side is stronger. Li Er frowned and snorted coldly. A mere 30,000 strings of cash. They want us to forget all the things they've done and let down our guard against them? What wishful thinking! Empress Zhongsun was puzzled. Your Majesty thinks that the Liu and Li families are donating money at this donation gathering to make peace with the court? Make peace. Li Er shook his head. Rather than making peace, it's better to say that they want to temporarily lower our guard against these two aristocratic families. In the Battle of Guan City, the strongest Qingeki, Bolinkwi, and Xingyang Jing families were all defeated and executed. The Liu family and the Li family of Zhao County should have felt the danger, right? However, this situation is only temporary. We believe that once the imperial court is weakened, these two families will immediately turn hostile and return to their original arrogant 1,000-year-old families. Empress Zhongsun nodded thoughtfully, but then she smiled and said, Your Majesty is right. But no matter what, the Zheng and Li families have donated 60,000 strings of cash, which can more or less alleviate the urgent situation of the court. They are helping the court to support the army. When the Tang Empire returns victorious from the northern expedition to the grasslands, the imperial power will be at its peak. I believe that at that time, even the Zheng and Li families will not dare to be disloyal. Hearing this, Li Erzuo paused for a moment and then laughed out loud. Ha ha! Maid Guanyin is right. Regardless of whether or not these two families have ulterior motives, the 60,000 strings of cash is real. How can the court not accept money that is given away for free? The couple looked at each other and smiled. Lu Qingqing and Li Jingxian, who were staying at the Longmen Inn in Lantian County, did not know of the conversation between Li Er and Empress Zhongsun. Otherwise, the two of them would have shouted, "This is a huge loss," or "We've been tricked." Although their participation in the donation gathering this time was indeed to gain the favor of the imperial court and let the imperial court relax their vigilance against the Liu and Li families, Li Er and Empress Zhongsun had seen through their goal without any effort. This was not fun. Brother Liu, Lantian County is indeed different from other places. There are many shops in the city, and the streets are crisscrossed. It is said that all the streets are made of cement developed by the Curious Pavilion. And this Longmen Inn, whether in Zhao County or Fanyang, there is no inn as grand and imposing as this. Of course, the most important thing is that it is comfortable to live in. In the guest room on the third floor, Li Jingxian sighed to Lu Qingqing, who was sitting beside him. Chapter 1846. The second day. As expected, the fundraising event held by the Yanhuang Chamber of Commerce was on the front page of Datong Daily. Yesterday, Li Yu, as the top reporter of Datong Daily, participated in the entire fundraising event. She knew better than anyone else what happened at the fundraising event, so today's headline article on Datong Daily was undoubtedly written by Li Yu. The title of the article was, "The Most Adorable Person." There was a very touching paragraph in the article, which was written as follows. When the country is in trouble, countless farmers who were busy in the fields put down their hoes when they heard the call. Sons bid farewell to their fathers, husbands bid farewell to their wives, and fathers left their children. They resolutely put on simple armor, and picked up the modeo that had not been used for a long time but was not rusty at all. They mounted their horses and embarked on the journey of uncertain life and death. They sacrificed their lives for the country and regarded death as a return home. They are the most adorable people. When the country was in trouble, the call was made. Countless merchants, who in the eyes of the world only cared about profit, came from all directions and gathered together. They donated generously to raise military funds for the country. In just a short day, they raised 428,500 strings of cash. Usually, they don't eat the imperial court's salary and are looked down upon by everyone. But at the crucial moment, they all took the sarira for righteousness and shared the country's worries. They are also the most adorable people. This article was not written by Li Yu specifically for the fundraising event, but she combined it with a major event that was currently happening in the Tang Dynasty. She integrated what she saw, heard, and felt into this article. Several days ago, Li Er had issued an edict to select 150,000 elite soldiers from more than 300 provinces of the Great Tang and send them to Chang'an for training. 2 months later, these 150,000 local elite soldiers would gather together with 300,000 Chang and 12 sentinels and march north to have a showdown with Xieli. The second day, as expected, the fundraising event held by the Yanhuang Chamber of Commerce was on the front page of Datong Daily. Yesterday, Li Yu, as the top reporter of Datong Daily, participated in the fundraising event. She knew better than anyone what happened at the fundraising event, so today's headline article on Datong Daily was undoubtedly written by Li Yu. The title of the article was, "The Most Adorable Person." There was a very touching passage that went like this. When the country is in trouble, countless farmers who were busy in the fields put down their hoes when they were summoned. Sons bid farewell to their fathers, husbands bid farewell to their wives, and fathers left their children. They resolutely put on simple armor, and picked up the modeo that had not been used for a long time but was not rusty at all. They mounted their horses and embarked on the journey of uncertain life and death. They sacrificed their lives for the country and regarded death with equanimity. They were the most adorable people. When the country was in trouble, the call was made. Countless merchants, who in the eyes of the world only cared about profit, came from all directions and gathered together. They donated generously to raise military funds for the country. In just one day, they raised 428,500 strings of cash. Usually, they don't eat the imperial court salary and are looked down upon by the people. But at the crucial moment, each and every one of them takes the sarira for righteousness and shares the country's worries. They are also the most adorable people. This article wasn't written by Li Yu specifically for the fundraiser. Instead, it was written based on a major event that was happening in Tang Dynasty. She incorporated everything she saw, heard, and felt into this article. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.